Good morning, Commissioners, Chief McDonald, Mr. Sibley, Madam Secretary, Inspector General Matthew Barragan, Mr. City Attorney Carlos de la Guerra, and members of the public. Today is Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. It is 9:30 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Please let the record reflect that Commissioners Southers, Shields, Garcia, Sanchez, Gordon are present, and we have a quorum. Mr. President.
Thank you. We welcome everyone attending this morning. The Police Commission is committed to ensuring equal access to its meetings. It is requested that individuals who require the services of a translator contact the Board Secretary no later than the day preceding the meeting. Whenever possible, a translator will be provided. Sign language interpreters, assistive listening devices, or other auxiliary aids and/or services may be provided upon request. To ensure availability, you are advised to make your request at least 72 hours prior to the meeting you wish to attend. All public comment will be heard during item number 2 on the agenda. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. Members of the public will have 1 minute per agenda item for a maximum of 2 minutes total. At the request of the speaker will be given 1 additional minute for general public comment, for a maximum of 3 minutes total. Members of the public, if you choose to participate in the public comment portion of the agenda, you can participate in this meeting in a number of ways outlined on the agenda. Members of the public who participate in public comment are reminded that they can speak to any item on the agenda or a matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board, so you're free to express your opinion on matters before the board and to generally express when you disagree with other opinions expressed. However, directing your comments to other individuals who have spoken or attacking others who have expressed their opinion shall be deemed off-topic, and your public comment period will be concluded. Message for those attending the meeting in person. These meetings are regular meetings between the board, the department, and key stakeholders. Meetings of the Board of Police Commissioners are open to the public. The state's Ralph M. Brown Act affords the public the opportunity to be present at the meetings, hear their presentations and dialogue in real time, and provide feedback via the public comment period. During these meetings, there's a need for the board to carry out the public business expeditiously without delays or disruptions. Members of the audience shall not engage in any conduct which causes an actual disruption of the meeting. Those attending in person are reminded that disruptive behavior will be cause for removal. If you disrupt this meeting, you will be provided with only 1 warning to cease disruptive behavior. If you fail to cease such behavior, you will be removed from the meeting. All attendees must be seated. Failure to follow this rule will result in a warning and/or removal from the meeting. With that, we'll move to item number 1, the report of the Chief of Police. Chief McDonald.
Good morning, President Southers, Vice President Shields, Commissioners, Inspector General Barragan, City Attorney de la Guerra, and Mr. Sibley. Today I'll be discussing significant events from the previous 2 weeks, providing a crime update, and discussing our personnel strength. On March 26, 2025, approximately 20:45 hours, a suspect later identified as Keon Williams reportedly pointed a possible rifle at passersby outside a residence located at 6427 South Figueroa Street. 77th Street Patrol Division uniformed officers responded, located Williams at the front door of the residence. Williams refused to follow the officer's commands to surrender and barricaded himself inside the location. Additional resources were requested and containment was established around the residence. Officers observed Williams holding what appeared to be a rifle, and Metropolitan Division Special Weapons and Tactics responded to the location to assist. From inside the location, Williams pointed the possible rifle at SWAT officers, resulting in an officer-involved shooting. Williams was struck by gunfire and submitted to arrest a short time later. While SWAT officers were clearing the location, they located 2 additional occupants. One was arrested for 69 APC resisting arrest. The other was questioned and released. Williams was transported to a local hospital where he received treatment for a gunshot wound to his left wrist. He was subsequently booked for 69 APC resisting arrest as well. No officers or community members were injured during this incident, and the investigation determined Williams was in possession of a large plastic object that resembled a rifle. Force Investigation Division investigators responded to the scene and are investigating this incident. Year-to-date, we've had 9 officer-involved shootings, the same number at this time last year. A pursuit resulting in a fatality on March 28th at approximately 1:30 a.m., uniformed patrol officers from Southwest Division observed a vehicle speeding near Century Boulevard and Sepulveda Boulevard. The vehicle had no license plates, was straddling lanes, and failed to yield to a passing emergency vehicle. Suspecting the driver might be under the influence, officers attempted a traffic stop, but the driver accelerated away. Officers initiated a pursuit at Martin Luther King Boulevard and Hoover Ave. As the suspect continued, 3 additional units were requested for support. The suspect vehicle led officers onto Century Boulevard and Concourse Way. Due to the suspect's high speed and increasing distance from the officer, the pursuit was discontinued. Shortly after, the LAPD airship observed the vehicle collide approximately 1.3 miles ahead. Units from both LAPD and the Los Angeles World Airports Police arrived at the scene and detained 2 suspects who were attempting to flee on foot. A 3rd occupant in the suspect vehicle was pronounced deceased at scene. The occupant of the other vehicle involved in the collision complained of pain, was transported to the hospital, and later released. Witnesses reported that the suspect vehicle had run a red light, causing the crash. The deceased occupant was identified as a 15-year-old, and their family had been notified. Due to the severity of the incident, the LAPD's multidisciplinary collision investigation team responded to the scene and is handling the investigation. There was a missing juvenile case which had a tragic ending. On April 1st, 2025, Robbery Homicide Division, Homicide Special Section, took over the investigation of a critical missing juvenile case involving a 13-year-old Oscar Omar Hernandez. Oscar was last seen on March 28th when he boarded a Metrolink train from Sun Valley to Lancaster to meet his soccer coach, Mario Edgardo Garcia Aquino. After failing to return home, Oscar was reported missing by his family to the Foothill Area Station on March 30th. Robbery Homicide Division's investigation, with the assistance of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, led to the discovery of Oscar's body on April 2nd in an unincorporated area near Oxnard in Ventura County. On the same day, April 2nd, Garcia Aquino was arrested on an unrelated Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department warrant for assault with intent to commit sodomy on a child. Further investigation by RHD detectives determined that Garcia Aquino was responsible for Oscar's death and the disposal of his body in Oxnard. On Monday, April 7th, the findings of the investigation were presented to Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office for filing consideration. The District Attorney filed 1 count of murder, as well as the special allegation that the murder was committed during the commission or attempted commission of a lewd and lascivious act upon a person of a child under the age of 14 years. With the information currently available in the ongoing investigation, it is believed that there are likely other victims who were abused by Garcia Aquino. The LAPD encourages anyone with information about the suspect or additional victims to contact our Juvenile Division Abused Child Unit section at 818-374-5417. On January 2nd, Southwest detectives and gang impact personnel served a search warrant in the city of West Covina targeting a known Rolling 30s gang member who had committed criminal threats with a firearm in Southwest Division. The suspect was taken into custody and the firearm used in the crime was recovered. Multiple cell phones were seized during the search, and search warrants were subsequently authored to analyze the data contained within them. The analysis revealed that the suspect, along with members of the Rolling 30 and Rolling 40s Crip gangs, were involved in numerous criminal activities, including firearms trafficking, narcotic sales, burglaries, looting, robberies, and shootings. Based on this intelligence, detectives obtained a multi-location search warrant for 8 locations throughout Los Angeles County. On February 27th, those warrants were served, resulting in the recovery of 19 firearms, the arrest of 7 gang members on various charges, and the seizure of thousands of rounds of ammunition, narcotics, U.S. currency, and property linked to the burglaries. All recovered firearms were entered into the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, or NIBIN, for analysis and potential links to other shootings. Southwest detectives were notified that one of the recovered rifles was linked to a February 8th, 2025 shooting that injured 3 victims, one of whom was a 2-month-old infant seated in a vehicle with her mother. With this information, Southwest GIT detectives identified the infant shooter as a Roland 30s gang member. A multi-location, 4 locations, search and Ramey warrant was authored to arrest the identified shooter and other suspects involved in the shooting. On April 3rd, Southwest GIT detectives, patrol, and special problems units served the warrants. The operation resulted in the arrest of the identified shooter and 4 additional members of the Roland 30s gang. 7 firearms were also recovered. All arrested individuals will be presented for federal prosecution, and the newly recovered firearms were also entered into NIBIN for further ballistics matching. The investigation remains ongoing. On the burglary front, North Hollywood, we had a significant arrest. Between January and March of 2025, a series of burglaries occurred in North Hollywood area, targeting both residential and commercial properties. As the investigation unfolded, detectives from North Hollywood Division identified a pattern and ultimately 3 individuals tied to a coordinated burglary crew. This crew was linked to 25 crimes, including residential and commercial burglaries, vehicle thefts, assault with a deadly weapon, and criminal threats. In many cases, security and doorbell cameras captured the suspects in action, providing critical leads that helped detectives build the case. When interviewed, the suspects admitted to committing these crimes to support their drug use. All 3 were unhoused and were taken into custody without incident, each in separate encounters. The first suspect, a male, was spotted riding a bicycle near Chandler Boulevard and Colfax Avenue on March 27th, and thanks to a crime alert flyer distributed by detectives, officers were able to identify and arrest him without incident. That same day, a second male suspect was located by our violent crime task force. Officers came across a tent along a freeway embankment and recognized the individual from the crime flyer. He too was arrested without incident. The third suspect, a female, was taken into custody on March 23rd after officers responded to a radio call about a woman screaming. Upon arrival, they identified her from the crime flyer and placed her under arrest, also without incident. The Van Nuys District Attorney Office filed 25 felony counts, which included 16 counts for burglary, 7 counts of grand theft auto, 1 count of felony evading, and 1 count of criminal threats. I want to thank, sincere thanks to the detectives and officers from North Hollywood area, as well as our officers from the Violent Crime Task Force for the outstanding work on this case. Their attention to detail, persistence, and commitment to the community led to the safe apprehension of 3 suspects who had been plaguing the North Hollywood area with a series of serious crimes. We have a major theft task force arrest as well of significance. On April 3rd, the Major Theft Task Force and Surveillance Warrant Section conducted surveillance at a known South American theft group apartment complex located in the Van Nuys area. MTTF monitored the location for a known South American theft group suspect who had an outstanding felony arrest warrant from the state of Virginia for identity theft with full extradition. During the surveillance, officers observed the suspect and 2 accomplices enter a vehicle. The officers followed the suspects to various cities where they appeared to attempt burglaries from motor vehicles. The suspects then traveled to the city of Whittier, where they were successfully committed a burglary from a motor vehicle. Whittier Police Department was notified and all suspects were taken into custody without incidents. The 3 suspects were booked for a 459 PC burglary. On an unrelated topic and a positive, this past weekend over 243 teams from law enforcement agencies across the nation, including teams from Canada and Australia as well, competed in the 39th annual Baker to Vegas Relay Run. The course spans 120 miles of challenging terrain with each team made up of 20 runners. It's a race that demands year-round training, discipline, and teamwork. And I'm proud to share that many of our LAPD divisions participated and earned spots among the top finishers in their respective categories. I want to just congratulate all who trained, ran, and supported this remarkable effort. On the crime picture, as of April 5th, the city continues to see encouraging trends overall crime reduction. When comparing the most recent 4-week period to the previous one, combined violent and property crimes are down 19.3%, violent crimes are dropped by 9%, and property crimes fell by nearly 22%. These declines reflect the hard work of our officers and the ongoing partnership with the community. Homicides continue to trend downward. Year-to-date, homicides are down more than 38% compared to 2024, with 32 fewer lives lost. When we look at the shooting victims citywide, we've seen a decrease of nearly 17% year-to-date compared to 2024, and a 19.8% drop over the last 4 weeks. Aggravated assaults citywide are down 8.5% compared to the prior 4-week period. Robberies dropped 8.6% during the same time frame, and in terms of robbery characteristics, nearly half were strong-arm robberies and just over 23% involved a firearm. Both categories showing slight declines. The most frequent locations for robberies continue to be public spaces such as sidewalks, streets, and parks. Burglaries are down significantly, over 21% in the last month, and all bureaus saw the overall drop. However, we will continue to monitor trends and patterns involving burglary crews that continue to plague our communities and deploy resources as appropriate. Motor vehicle thefts are down 9.4% overall. So in summary, the city's seeing strong downward trends in key crime categories, but we remain focused on precision enforcement and community engagement in areas that see upticks. Continued data-driven deployment and public trust are central to our momentum. On our personnel front, we have, as of April 7th, 8,780 sworn personnel, 2,657 civilian personnel, and 380 reserve officers. That concludes my presentation this morning, Mr. President, Commissioners.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you for the update. My condolences to the family of the missing juvenile, but thank you for the update regarding the April 2nd arrest. That was a good outcome. And again, compliments and congratulations to those officers who participated in Baker to Vegas this past weekend. With that, I'm going to move to my fellow commissioners, and I'll go to Commissioner Garcia for any comments or questions.
None, thank you.
Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon?
Good morning, everyone. Questions? Thank you, Chief.
Commissioner Kalanche?
Yes, one quick question. Good morning. Wondering what you've heard in the last, I guess we haven't been here in a month, but, or I haven't been here, sorry. Wondering like what you're hearing from community when it, in terms of like the immigration issues. I know that we've been meeting with some of the leaders in that community. Just wondering what we're hearing. Any incidents, any concerns, just to give us a quick update on status and what's going on in the community.
No, thank you, Commissioner. I'm glad to report that I think we've been able to reduce the anxiety level in the community to a great degree from where it was a couple of months ago. We've been out there as much as we can, talking to as many groups as we can in the community in general, to be able to lay out exactly what our policy is, how long it's been in place, and the fact that our folks are well versed in state law and department policy as it relates to civil immigration enforcement. Our federal partners and on task forces that we participate on are also aware of state law and don't put us in a position where we're going to expose our people to any of that kind of enforcement. So I think we're in a good place as it relates to that. Certainly, we can't check any boxes. We want to move forward and continue to educate members of the community to try and, as best we can, provide some level of comfort so that people will feel comfortable in coming forward if they're a victim of a crime or a witness to a crime to participate in the process. The chilling effect of people being afraid does no one any good in our city or any of our communities. So I think we're on the right track. Certainly more work to be done, but we've gotten pretty good traction, I think, at this point.
Thank you for that. I know that the last conversation we had, the department was developing a video, and I think you were part of it.
Right.
Is that completed, or what's?
I'll check on the status. We've completed our portion of it. We were trying to get some members of the communities, the consuls general from various countries. I think trying to get their calendars lined up to complete it is still in progress.
Okay, let us know when that's completed so that we could share it with community.
Great, perfect.
Okay, thank
Will
you.
do. Thank you.
Vice President Shields.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief, for the report. I want to commend the officers and detectives who were part of the several important arrests that you mentioned. I think that highlights not only the sophistication and good police work being done at the department, but hopefully it also sends a message of deterrence to people who think that there are no consequences for their actions when they commit crimes in Los Angeles. So I think those are helpful reminders for all of us here. I had a question about the use of force incident on March 26th. Was there any indication that there were any mental health issues involving this individual, and was SWAT called to this incident where they have a kind of crisis negotiation psychologist kind of embedded with their team?
Yeah, generally, and I'll have to get detailed information on this one. They were out there for a prolonged period of time. That would generally entail crisis negotiators to be able to come out and talk along with department psychologists. I am pretty confident that that was done in this case because of the time that they had. They tried to engage the individual to communicate. There was none of that done. As it played out then over an extended period of time, the suspect could be seen in the window with what they believed was a rifle, and when he pointed it in the direction of SWAT officers is when the officer-involved shooting occurred, and that's all on video.
Thank you. And I had heard great things about the use of the department psychologists in these types of incidences, that they are not sidelined, that they are actively involved in helping to assess. So I'm glad that this was a result of at least the SWAT team responding to this and trying to use all of the resources available to them. And we'll obviously assess whether or not the shooting was in policy at a later date after the investigation is complete. I had a question. You know, there throughout the nation and also in Los Angeles, there have been protests and rallies and things like that. Have there been any significant incidences happening, or are they all fairly, First Amendment protected and no major significant incidences?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we routinely, throughout any week, we have a number of demonstrations, protests, which we deploy to try and meet with the organizers of it to ensure that their needs are met and that we can keep everything peaceful. Recently, we've had a number of protests, and we have been able to do that. Nothing of significance to report on that front. People expressing their First Amendment rights. Sure.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, we'll now go to agenda item number 2. Oh, sorry. Commissioner Shezza-Gordon?
Good morning again. I want to follow up on Commissioner Calanche's question, Chief. I have heard on many occasions that although the LAPD policy is not to assist ICE, and that the presence when ICE is in the immigrant community is limited and targeted specifically to traffic or pedestrian group control. Is that correct?
Somewhat. If they're doing civil immigration enforcement, we don't participate in that. There are certain cases where we do participate, where somebody is a convicted felon who has been previously deported, is back. And I can get you the details on when we would participate. But if they're doing civil immigration enforcement, our presence at that locations would be with an eye toward protecting the surrounding community. In cases of conflict or there's a use of force, our hope is to be able to provide for evacuation and to be able to ensure that as they do what they do, making their arrest, that we keep the surrounding community safe.
With that in mind, Chief, what efforts have been made by the LAPD to dispel any community perception that the mere presence of LAPD in these kind of task force and presence when ICE is in the community, what efforts have been made, if any, by the LAPD to dispel this fear, this
Right.
perception that, in fact, LAPD is assisting immigration, and that they are working with ICE in whatever is going on in their community. Anything?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Our folks are out there. We've talked about it with our command staff, and it's gone throughout the organization. Our officers are well-versed in the policy and procedure of the department as well as state law as it relates to civil immigration enforcement. Every chance we get to be able to speak to a community group, to be able to help alleviate that anxiety, we take that. We've been out to the churches, we've been out to community groups. We've spoke with people who can, who have a constituency where they can bring that message back. Our hope and goal is to be able to relieve the level of anxiety that has been so prevalent in many of our communities. And the read we're getting is that we've been able to do that to a degree. We don't feel like it's any time we can stop. It's something we want to continue to do and to be able to get the message out with everybody. And as I mentioned earlier, it's in nobody's interest to have the chilling effect that people would be afraid to come forward as witnesses or victims if they're involved in a crime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. We'll now go to agenda item number 2, public comment. Madam Secretary, please call the first speaker.
Min Yang.
Could you allow my wife talk first?
Hi, my name is Myung Yang, and I'm the mother of Yong Yang. Yesterday was his 41st birthday, but instead of celebrating, I was grieving because LAPD killed my son inside my own apartment. He was scared, confused, and needed help, so I called for mental health support for him. But instead of treating him with care, they treated him like a criminal. They treated my son in his parents' home like an intruder, and they killed him. This is wrong. This is not excusable, and I'm not going to be silent regarding this. My son's life mattered. I live every day with the pain of not being able to save him, even though I tried everything I could. What was done to him was unjust and cruel. This should never have happened. Do not let this happen to anybody, any other family. Treat every human life with dignity, especially when someone is in crisis, please.
Sir, I'm sorry, before you begin, put the puppet down. You give us the finger already 2 times. You 2 have had your first and last warning. Be respectful of these people coming here to give public comment for their son that's been lost. This is your first and only warning. I'm sorry, sir. Please go ahead.
President to Dr. Suders, Vice President Shields, Commissioner Kalanch, and Commissioner Garcia, Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon, Executive Director Sibley, Chief McDonough, Inspector General Barragan. My name is Dr. Min Yang, USC Trojan, and the father of Yong Yang. Yong was a 40-year-long LA resident and was brutally killed 11 months and 6 days ago. Allow me to give a brief comments and request. LAPD was to assist the DMH for transporting Young to USC Hospital with patient's consent. LAPD only did less than 3 minutes of talking over the closed apartment door in 3 different occasions over 1.5 hour period. That was all, even without compassion. LAPD should not have had used force since Young, the patient, did not consent. LAPD chose to use force unjustly and violated Young's civil rights severely, which led his death. LAPD chose not to use the non-lethal options they had at the site, a taser and a projectile launcher. 3 deadly bullets punctured his heart, lung, stomach, pancreas, liver, intestines, spine, ribs, and others. Young was denied to get immediate medical care when LAPD sent the paramedics away swiftly within seconds after shooting. Slowly and painfully, Young bled to death. There was no meaningful medical interventions until death was announced by Los Angeles Fire Department medic 14 minutes after shooting. They also arrived 8 minutes after shooting. We were informed of Young's death 1 hour after his death. We were outside and waited for 8.5 hours until police moved away and let us in. We were asked questions for 3 hours at the Olympic Station while announcement to media was made depicting Young as violent and dangerous. Commissioners, I urge you to conduct a thorough and serious review. Please endeavor until you get to know the full truth, because Young's life matters as much as anyone's son or daughter of you guys. You are there to protect LA residents through upholding law and Constitution, by ensuring officers held accountable, by demanding department policies to protect life and civil rights, and by representing community voices, especially those harmed by police actions. And I demand that you do not fail again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I make a quick request?
Sure.
Commissioner Suthers? I know that this case is, will be taken up in closed session, but I'm wondering, or I would request, I would like to see a investigation of the aftermath and how, when parents were notified and things that we don't necessarily get to see in closed session because it's not part of the investigation, the use of force investigation. But I think that merits some consideration just to see what the process was and what our policies are. So if we can request that, I don't know if that's an Inspector General request.
That's in the investigation. You'll get it all.
Okay, we'll get that, even
Always.
even the parents at the station and things like that.
That's part of the investigation
Okay.
when the notifications are made.
Okay, well, yeah. So depending on the, yeah.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please call the next speaker.
I have a card for Yadi. Okay.
Hi there. I'm here to speak on license plate readers and other technology that the LAPD uses.
Can you speak up, please?
I'm sorry. I'll try to be closer to the microphone. Is this better? Okay. Yeah, so I just wanted to make a request that the license plate readers that are going to be deployed for you guys to consider having stronger privacy and just data retention periods, because the LAPD has several license plate reader systems, and they have a very long retention period, and compared to many of the other police departments across the state and the ones that are going to be installed, the flock cameras, the default is 30 days, which almost all law enforcement agencies that use flock cameras default to. So that would be the default unless LAPD specifically asks for the retention period to be made longer. And if that is the case, I would also ask that the retention period of 30 days also be applied to the vigilant cameras. And just so you know, Governor Newsom, when he made an announcement to deploy these cameras with CHP, announced that their retention period would be 28 days. And this is very important, especially in light of the concerns that we have over the protection of our immigrant community and, abiding by SB 54. And I also want to express that I have concerns about the police recently announcing to use facial recognition technology on the body-worn cameras. That technology is not ready for primetime use, and I can tell you as someone who actually built facial recognition technology, and it should definitely not be used on body-worn cameras against people. And just generally that this body should work with the LAPD to have stronger protections, especially when using surveillance equipment that by definition is not privacy protected. And the last thing I wanted to make a note is that I tried to speak at the military equipment, the AB 481 community meeting, and I was unable to do so, just as I oftentimes am not. I know that LAPD put a lot of time and effort into putting their marketing and PR materials together for that meeting, and we were there listening to them talk about their equipment, and it was 40 minutes before anybody had a chance. And at that time, the Zoom free session, I don't know why they were using free, cut off, and so we were deprived of the ability to weigh in on the military equipment that the LAPD uses. And specifically, I'll write a letter, but I have concerns about the possible uses of drone equipment for any and all areas. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ma'am, I'd like to have one of our officers get your information. Again, thank you for these questions and regarding your expertise and experience with this technology. So this officer is going to take your information so we can obtain that. Thank you.
Next, we have Jason Reedy.
All right, so today this commission will determine if Yang Yang's murder was in policy, but here are the facts. His murderer pig, Andres Lopez's career won't end today. It won't end despite this being the second person he shot in mental crisis. Lopez had been on the scene the longest. He had spent time speaking with Yang's father, and despite his own history of shooting someone in mental crisis, Lopez volunteered to be the primary pig to confront Yang in the apartment and was allowed to. Now, Lopez was the one who decided to start entering without announcing there were pigs into the apartment. And the first words that came out of his mouth as he pried that door open was, "Hey, hey, hey, you're gonna get shot." Who fucking says that to someone clearly in mental distress who believed that people were out to kill him? And tragically, Yang wasn't wrong. Lopez fired 3 shots, not because he felt threatened, but because he saw an opportunity to do what every pig in this department seems to dream of doing, shooting someone down. And you'll point to the fact that Yang had a knife in his hand. But as your pigs entered the apartment, Yang's other hand was raised, retreating, clearly in fear of his life. He was terrified of who was coming in, and Lopez gunned him down. Yang didn't threaten him, nor did he make any move to stab any pig. You murdered their son in their own living room. And after shooting Yang, Lopez showed no remorse. In fact, he callously said, "Who wants to cuff him up?" In Yang's final moments, his killer stood over him, ensuring he died in custody. It's nothing short of sinister. Now, the LAPD released footage of their pig, Luis Friends Acuna, shooting at a passing vehicle in quote-unquote self-defense. This footage directly contradicts the narrative pushed by this department and the media. The LAPD went as far as charging the driver with assault with a deadly weapon on a pig, despite there being clear evidence that there was no immediate threat to Acuna. Acuna was actually looking for an opportunity, again, to fire his weapon. And the deception doesn't end there. Despite Acuna living in Montclair, the LAPPL reported him as displaced during the Eaton fire and even solicited donations on his behalf. Now, we had to shell out $4.5 million to pig Randy Rangel because the LAPD decided to target him for reporting that another pig, Humberto Najera, was repeatedly committing overtime fraud. Now, the LAPD chose not to investigate these allegations because any extra eyes on that contract with the MTA could potentially jeopardize it and expose how the LAPD uses overtime to pad the pockets of its pigs. Najera earned more than $346,000 in overtime pay alone in 2022 and 2023. Now, Rhodes is out. McDonald informing her through a subordinate that she was done. It's quite a cowardly move, Jim. More than likely, we'll see a lawsuit soon from Rhodes, given the false narrative that the LAPD and the LAPPL have spread in regard to the release of the headshot photos. I also want to talk about the license plate readers. We all know you use that to trail us, to surveil us. It's no question at all. And so, yeah, we don't want any more fucking license plate readers. Fuck the LAPD. Justice for Yang Yang. Fuck.
Jonathan Foster.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Foster. No categorical use of force. It was not at the last week, it was at the last meeting. So I wanted to make a correction. It was 2 meetings ago on March 11th. And today it's 2 weeks since the last meeting again. And on the March 25th meeting, my last words were wetter, which meant I hope you do well, or I hope you do better, but I used the W and the word better at the same time. So I'm not going to be able to talk about Linda Becerra Moran or the fact that this guy, Errol, kicked out 2 girls that were laughing, and I was the one doing the laughing, and I kind of incited them to laugh too because, this shouldn't be the best comedy in L.A., coming down to the commission meeting. And sometimes it is. It's the best damn comedy in LA is your crap. Your voice, your 2 voices and this voice, this is who it kills. Jamil Shaw Jr., you see him? He's dead. Yep. How about this one? Placer County, California, Michael Davis, dead, 42. Deputy Sacramento, David Oliver, he's dead. Your voice kills these people. I'm the only one in America standing up for the police officers. Jonathan Douglas Foster. So then you got this guy. Here's another one. Rates. This guy was killed. Phoenix PD. Mesa, Arizona. Brandon Mendoza. Here's Andy Chavez. And you would think he's a Latino, but he's a Latino, but he was killed by a guy from the Philippines. Harris County Sheriff Dwayne Polk, he's a black guy. We know what the Nuri Latinos think about black people. Yep. And so here's Houston PD, Canales. Oh, that's Will. Yeah, 38, Houston, actually. Figueroa. And your voice kills people all over the United States of America. Here's Canales. He's 42 in Houston. Here's a guy in Florida. He was killed. You kill all over the country. He was killed by a guy from the Bahamas, not allowed to be here. Mike Grubbs. Here's a veteran, Mike Grubbs. And here's another veteran, Chad Nelson. You guys killed police and veterans. Here's Border Patrol, Brian Terry. Yep. Here's my guy that Terrell Horn III, U.S. Coast Guard. Knocked out of his boat, he hit his head on the propeller. You killed him. Kate Steinle. Is she on here? Yeah, she's on there somewhere. Here's Kate Steinle. Jew. Hot girl, boy. How about this one? Vanessa Pham. So Guatemala killed the Philippines in the United States of America because of your voice. You've
Thank you.
Next, we have Mona M.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Hi, yes, what items would you like to speak on?
All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Chief McDonald, OIG, commissioners, Commissioner President. What may sound like anger from a community of survivors may actually be hurt, fear, frustration, and rejection of the justice system, starting with the LAPD. I would like to address what has become the word of the day or the phrase of the month, elevating misdemeanor crimes into hate speech or hate crimes. I'm not protesting or advocating against a religion. I'm talking about Scientology. I'm advocating and protesting the crimes and abuses that are happening because of them and within the religion. No crimes or abuses should be cloaked or excused because they are done in the name of a religion. Prince versus Massachusetts, Supreme Court decision, decided that a long time ago, that no religious right did not supersede a basic human right, a civil right, and the law, simply the law. As an example, your religion can believe in cannibalism. It doesn't mean that you're allowed to eat people. Remember what every Scientologist is told every time they do a session, and I quote, "While we cannot guarantee you that matters revealed in this list will be held forever secret, we can promise you faithfully that no part nor any answer you make will be given to the police or the state." I'm not going to finish that quote because, Chief, you just talked about encouraging victims coming forward to report their crimes and not be afraid. Children from the day one of Scientologists are told to mistrust and to fear authorities, especially police. That's not encouraging people whatsoever to report their crimes. And we would like to have a discussion with you. I've asked many times. And just when you asked that lady previously if she would talk with you, I know you can ask us. Audit LA is there. She's part of this. She understands what we're dealing with. Please, let's have communication so that way all victims can report as they need to. Thank you, and I yield back my time.
Next, we have Audit LA.
All items, please. I want to give my condolences to these parents that broke me. Please invest more in an MEU unit where people are trained to handle crisis. I have a friend with a son who's on the spectrum, and she has had to call LAPD to help her because and I begged her never to do that again because you don't know who they're going to send. And I shouldn't have to tell anyone not to call the police, you know, but so please work on that. But I come here about Scientology as well. A couple of weeks ago, you heard from actual victims, one of them being the niece of the actual leader of this, and they want it to be a hate crime to say cult. Is it a hate crime to say gang? Because if you look at the definitions of gang or cults, everything they do lines up with it. And if they want to be in a cult or a gang, that's their prerogative, but it's not their prerogative to commit crimes against others. And that is happening both inside and outside of Scientology. And you know, and they're trying to, like this, I'm really concerned about the hate crime thing because somebody took down a wreath, okay, after Christmas. They don't even celebrate Christmas. It was, you know, ready to go probably in the trash anyway. And that person is charged with a hate crime. I believe the bail on that was like $50,000, if I'm not mistaken. You know, $350,000 total for like little misdemeanors like tampering with those planters that, you know, the law, they broke the law with it being ADA non-compliant planters. but somebody got tired of that and kind of just messed with one. He's charged with the hate crime. They're not charged with the hate crime for preventing my egress and regress, because it's ADA non-compliant. They're not even looked into, they're not investigated, there's nothing. And that's only a minor crime. What about the people that have come here and saying, look, we were raped inside that blue building. There's other children being harmed, and there's seniors being neglected and harmed. And they make it like a compound where they chase you out. That's like a gang. They have their territory, and they run you out. They've used LAPD to run us out. I mean, I really have a suit against you guys. I don't want any more I don't want that money from this city, but I have a suit that I can pursue because LAPD prevented my First Amendment rights to travel or to go through there or to protest because they use LAPD to do their bidding. A couple of weeks ago, they got Hollywood Division. I'm pretty sure it was them who did it because I bumped into a big, the one who's on CPAB. I keep begging you to get her off. And so that the captain made it a private meeting, even after telling me to, that I can come to the meeting, and I couldn't because then I was deprived because of her. It really needs to be looked into, sir, okay. And everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goat puppet.
So, only one paying attention is Rasha, so we'll just note that over across the street at the City Hall meeting, they purposely started the meeting early so that I can't attend both meetings. So this is your collusion. So this is what you do. And we've got hundreds of people looking into this nationwide. We got attorneys in New York. We got attorneys in Washington, D.C. They're recording all these meetings, and they're noting what you're doing. And so this is just another guy, and you know what it is, right? It's a fucking snitch, right? I mean, who's going to set up a $15,000 studio and claim they're unemployed, right? So it's all happening. But we have a good news for you today, and this is directed at your police chief. You apparently don't do your job according to the U.S. Attorney's Office. So they're going to do it for you. Breaking news, the United States Attorney's Office today has opened up a homeless services fraud joint task force. What a disgusting fucking example that you guys won't do a simple audit and tell us where the money went. We know where the money went. We got a guy that's coming down here today with over 10,000 pages. He'll tell you every dollar. Offshore accounts, fine. Swiss bank accounts, got it. Proton accounts, got it. Signal chats, got it. You don't think we can hack Signal chats? You had a guy that was just begging me for months. Wayne, go to Signal. Wayne, go to Signal. Wayne, go to Signal. They're hacking your phone, Wayne. They're hacking your phone. What do you think? I'm fucking stupid? I mean, yeah, I wear a Santa Claus hat in fucking April. Let's give you that. But do you think I'm that fucking stupid? And you still haven't figured out what I used to do before I became a lawyer. You haven't figured out my old career because you can't. You keep digging and digging and digging and digging and digging. You can't fucking find it because you can't find it because they're not going to let you find it. That's why I had to go to school and get an education. That's why I don't spell shit like your handout outside. Quote, Q-O-U-T-E, you got on your back. Quote. What is that? Is it a quote or is it a quote? See, you don't even read your own fucking editorial to make sure there's proper spell check. You people are out of your fucking minds. And see, so it's all coming together now. And the only thing that I need is for you and your city attorney to simply release my records that you hid on my March 30th, 2017 swatting incident in Canoga Park so that I can reopen my case and go to the nice federal judge and get fucking paid. Please do it for me, Jim. I'm getting old, man. I need your help.
Mr. Herman?
Yes, sir. Let me spell it for you in this handout here. Inspirational Q-U-T-E. I don't know how to spell or read, but goddamn, why did the peanut call the cops? Because it was assaulted. Why do you call a cop in the bed? An undercover cop. But listen, Django, attorney over there, Mr. Django, due to your prior restraints on my First Amendment, you too collaborate in my civil rights in violations under the American Disability because I'm a retard. A little puppet that calls Mr. Django a retard. Is that offensive? What the fuck you did to the child of the parents who came in here this morning complaining about why you shot a person with mental health like me soon? Why is that, Django? Mr. Inspector General, can you believe this fucking shit? They're out killing people with mental health because they think they have a right to. No. No fucking way, Jim. Is Herman next? Are you gonna shoot Herman just because he waves a plastic knife? Or because he pulls a big dick out in a city meeting and says the city of Los Angeles sucks a dick like this one? This big, Jim. Big. This is big problems. And for that reason, Jim, what were you guys doing with all the money to help the homeless? I want an internal investigation and audit where the fuck the money went for homelessness. Each time I went to the city of LA and complained about getting off the fucking street when I was homeless for 2 fucking years, no one seemed to fucking find the money. Where's the fucking money at, Jim? Is it because I suffer from mental health? Nobody here wants to help me. Well, this poor fucking family has to suffer what the consequences of your fucking selfish pig? Yeah, Reedy's right. A pig. Oink, oink, oink. Oink, oink, oink. Let me wear my cap. Oink, oink. In the month of spring one day so I can celebrate. Yay! Now to my final comment. 42 USC 1983 politely. Fuck you. Fuck the police. NWA-MOU. I got my rights. I know my rights. Fuck you, Mr. Attorney, for the record.
Philip Tabby.
Good morning. All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
First, I want to give condolences to the family that spoke in the beginning. I want to share my concern for the lack of accountability this board has. Today's meeting agenda and written public comment has not been posted on the and on the website, and that's unacceptable, Southers. Another unacceptable item is this meeting used to call a member in the audience for public comment and then a member calling in from Zoom. Why has this changed without any notification to the public? Commissioner President Southers, are you the new dictator in the LAPD? These actions are unacceptable and need to be corrected immediately. I recently read a lawsuit against the department, and it looks like the past is coming to bite you in the butt. It's about warnings that were given by command staff, but instead of addressing issues, the LAPD loves to cover things up. As an example, long story short, Captain Smith de-escalated a situation where someone was suffering a mental health crisis that surrendered, and a couple hours later, he surrendered. But some of your senior staff disagreed with Smith on a Zoom call with over 100 senior staff on the call. Why? You know who suffers, though? The community. I do hope the media looks into this lawsuit. This retaliation moved one of the best captains Foothill ever had. Instead, we are still stuck with Captain Loose Hands Marco Lozano, one of the worst, if not the worst captain Foothill has ever seen. He has several complaints filed against him. Chief, let's sit down and talk about it. Foothill area residents and business leaders here are not happy. We demand a new captain. This isn't the first time talking about it here at the commission meeting, but the info may be a bit new to you, Chief. Lozano is a disgrace. Bring back the blue line flag. Investigate all crimes involving children, in particular the allegations against Scientology. Get rid of the COVID mandate. Bring back prayer. We are one nation under God. Oh, and thank you for firing Liz Rhodes. God bless the LAPD. I yield the rest of my time.
Katrina Thomas.
I'm here today to speak on behalf of my brother Anthony So. He was murdered on July 6th. He died in police custody. We need the police to be accountable for what happened to my brother. We need the police to investigate his murder properly, and whoever is responsible for my brother's death need to pay for what they've done. My brother was not just he wasn't a nobody. My brother dedicated 30 years of his life leading, encouraging, supporting, in coaching youth. He coached from elementary school to high school. He coached on all-star international professional competition teams, all-star teams across the states. My brother was loved and adored by many. He was loved and adored by many. He didn't deserve to die the way he did. He didn't deserve to be overlooked the way they overlooked him, like if he was nothing. They need to be held accountable. They put handcuffs on my brother when he took his last breath, and they just let him go. They let him go. He didn't deserve it. 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 And for him to say that his death was justified, how dare y'all pour salt on our wounds and say his death was justified? It's okay. It's okay. Our family traditions are broken. Every Christmas Eve was spent at his house. He hosted our family tradition for the last 10 plus years. He was the host for our family games. My daughter calls me crying 3 o'clock in the morning, and what am I to say? What do I say? I find my mother locked in her room. What do I say? What do I say? What do I do? My brother's good, and they don't care. They don't care. He don't deserve it. He didn't deserve it. He didn't deserve it. He didn't deserve it. He didn't deserve it. That's not fair. It's not fair. They didn't contact us with no information. They have his property. They haven't released his property. The only reason they released the video before, they didn't give it to us, it was on the news. They didn't tell us anything. They still haven't told us anything. My brother's, his life, his passion, his purpose, his heart, and served. His heart, he served, he taught, he encouraged, he supported cheerleaders. Their whole purpose was to step out and to be loud. So at this point, the police need to do their job and take care of what happened. It's gonna go forward. It's not gonna stop. He matters.
Thank you, ma'am. And Chief, this is another matter that we want to look at the investigation in terms of the family notification upon the death of her brother.
Okay, if we could have somebody get the details. John?
And I'd ask the Inspector General's office if they can make contact and make sure that they are kept apprised of any information that they can be throughout the process. Thank you.
Yes, we have people in the audience with my office, and so we'll make that contact immediately. Thank you.
Next, we have Danny Park.
I'm going to speak, I'd like to speak on all the items. First of all, my condolences to the family and the brother who just spoke. My name's Danny, and I'm with the Justice for Yongyang People's Committee. Just as the lady spoke, like with the officers today on the agenda, the officers who you guys are going to be talking about the disciplinary actions of who were involved that day for Young's case. There's different responses that could have happened with who's there that day. And I'm wondering, was that the only and best course of action that had occurred that day? Because the cost of that was Young's life. I wonder, like, there's so many of these recurring incidents, and with Young's situation, like, is like true safety and peace, has that been created that day and so forth? And like that day when Officer Lopez, he was the first one in, he volunteered. And then he ended up shooting Young. And his reaction, the first thing he said after that was, who wants to cuff him up? And I think if it's like a protective use of force, that comes from a reaction of like wanting to protect those who were there, and that's the best course of action. I think a lot of his teammates would be very thankful for him. And that would be a guttural reaction from a lot of the teammates that were there. That's for you guys to, if you can, or consider or think about that. For us, family members and friends and community of the Yang family, from our perspective, like Young was one of his scariest day of his life. He always heard voices and said that people were after him, and on that day, that happened, and then he died. And being professionals and experts, I think that type of the ability to, how do you navigate and respond with, because he was, reacting with a common flight, fight, freeze reaction, and I do expect that from the professionals, to have that wisdom and to be able to navigate and respond accordingly, but I didn't see it, I don't see that. And I don't think that the end of his life was not the only end result, that the best result that could have happened. There could have been a lot of other responses, but the cost of this is the life of our beloved Young, So anyways, thank you for letting me speak over the 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Megan?
Yeah, I just also want to say my condolences to the families who are here today. Just shame on every one of you guys because you enable it. So I organize with the Stop LAPD Spine Coalition and White People for Black Lives. Those organizations and Black Lives Matter, the People's City Council, come here every week to make sure that it's in the public record somewhere. The truth about LAPD, to speak the truth about Yang Yang and about Linda Becerra Moran. In just the year and a half since I've been attending these meetings, at least a dozen people experiencing mental health crises have been killed by LAPD. This is business as usual for LAPD. We have the deadliest police department in the country. The deadliest. Not the biggest, but the deadliest. It is racist and corrupt by every objective measure. We can't forget that policing, this police department, the origin story is in armed patrols who hunted down Black people to return them to rich men who beat them and killed them with impunity and completely legal protection. And when they couldn't do that, those armed patrols stalked Black people and criminalized them to send them to jail to be able to profit off of our labor. That's the beginnings of this institution. LAPD is now what it always has been. And this board, everybody sitting here, Rasha, Earl, Fabian, Teresa, Django, Mike, you do everything in your power to protect them. Yang Yang was killed in his parents' living room. He had, I'll quote from the LA Times, less than 10 seconds to comply with the Los Angeles police officer's commands before he was shot 3 times and died. The officer that killed him, he shot and wounded another mentally ill man in 2021, and because you all didn't do anything actual about that, he was available to kill their son. This is on you. I feel really lucky that my radicalization didn't come because I had to watch someone from my family be tortured and killed by LAPD. And Southers, how dare you say that Yang Yang was lost? He was murdered by your beloved institution that you work so tirelessly to shield from any criticism. And Kalanche, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Can we get the after action reports? How about you stop killing people's kids? Will you ask for an after action report for Linda Becerra Moran? No, because her parents can't come here, so you can't perform for them. You don't give a shit. I've been coming here weekly for over a year, and she doesn't give a shit. I'm sorry. Southers willing to offer harm, willing to offer condolences for harm to a child, but not when your own precious officers cause it, not when the police organization that you founded molested over 200 kids. Google it if you don't know what I'm talking about. And when we have emotions and grief and rage about these truths, you kick us out, you tell us to shut up because it's not within the 45 minutes at 9:30
Thank you.
every other Tuesday morning that you allow for 3 million people
Thank you.
to hear the truth for you. Shame on all of you. Bravo.
Jamie Cusick.
I'm not going to mention anything really that Megan hasn't already just laid out extremely well. You know, there is, it's proven by certain comments made today that there's not only this presupposition that crime is going to occur regardless of LAPD's intervention, there's a presupposition that LAPD itself is going to cause harm to the citizens it supposedly serves and protects. What the hell was that question, Kalanche, about the policy for how families are treated after their loved ones have been harmed or killed? And what about you, Errol and Rasha, chiming in just now to look at the policy to ensure that families are kept apprised about whether their loved ones are alive or dead while they're in custody? You asked those questions in order to look good for the media presence today. You know, all of you are carefully putting on your thoughtful listening faces and for once in a while, kind of turning them towards this podium during public comment. But do you realize that the demand that Yang Yang's parents made of you all was to make sure that this doesn't happen again? And yet you're trying to update or express kind of vague concern about the policy for how to interact with grieving families which assumes that there are going to be more grieving families in the future. How dare you be so disrespectful of these folks who came into this dystopic room to share their pain with the very same people who enabled their son's death in the first place. You all did enable it. There were countless incidences of murders of folks in mental health crisis by LAPD before Yang Yang was brutally shot down, and this commission did nothing. You have his blood on your hands. You have the blood of Linda Becerra Moran on your hands, another woman in mental health crisis who was also suicidal, who was anguished and crying as an officer shot her. No trainings could have saved her or Yang Yang. No more money could possibly make LAPD anything other than the evil, corrupt institution that it is. Abolish the police. I'll yield the rest of my time.
Hamid Khan.
So looking at the police commission itself, there's a whole lot of stuff that we come here every week. But, you know, what comes through is that it's a weaving together of three items that these fools preside over and make their decisions. Donations, police misconduct, which means murdering people, and the third one, expansion of the police state. More surveillance, more technology, and more targeting and stalking of people. And since, 1869 or whatever, they've been around, 170 years ago, 170 years now, they're still talking about de-escalation training. They're still talking about giving more resources. So if they haven't learned de-escalation, when do we expect them to learn? If you haven't learned anything in over 170 years, do you really expect that to change? That's not going to happen. 1/3 of the people that they murder have known mental health conditions.
1/3.
And people know that, and the LAPD knows that. Several names have been shared. Oconio, Moran, Yang, and we can go on and on and on and on and on. However, this is the people's representative. This body, the functionaries of the state. Now we know as functionaries of the state, they work for the state. And they have to expand the power of the state. Simple things, license plate readers, pipeline to deportation, flock safety on the agenda. We've given them details about that how the information through Palantir Gotham and Palantir Thunderbird have already been accumulated. Millions and millions. And now Peregrine technology. And now flock safety, which provides a portal. Where they can check people's immigration violation status as well. Pipeline to deportation. And to kick it all off, and this is where the kicker is, that they fired Liz Rhodes because she supposedly was following the law, following the California Public Records Act. Liz Rhodes is responsible for how they hide their violence by garnishing it into this constitutional bullshit and constitutional policing language. So this is the twisted nature of the LAPD. This is how they operate. And this is why you all are rubber stamp bodies and functionaries of the state. But we'll keep on fighting back. We'll keep on exposing you and disrupting you. And this will end.
Matios.
I too send my condolences to the family members of folks who were killed by LAPD. And I think, both Jamie and Hamid are touching on something we've been saying time and time again, and that is the aspect of theater of this board. I've said it explicitly, how there is a very performative nature to it. And even how Jamie pointed out that there is this implication that there will be more grieving families. And so while we recognize all these people lost are loved and important and valued, all the people who don't have folks to advocate for them, all the folks who are alive but locked up and tortured at Men's Central Jail and everywhere else, these are all lives we value. In truth, to the LAPD, to this Board of Police Commissioners, those lives lost, that's just the cost of doing business. I'm going to repeat that because your officer's phone went off. Those lives lost, and you know this is the reality you uphold, are the cost of doing business. The violence inherent to LAPD is the goal. That's the objective. You want violence workers. That's useful, time and time again. If that weren't the case, you have the resources to change things. You have the information, you have the means. You've had 170 years, as Hamid put it. And yet, it's just replicated. There's coverage, there's liability mitigated, and you consistently walk the line to see how much you can get away with. Liz Rhodes' termination is emblematic of that. That is, this is a person in charge of constitutional policing. Their whole job was to make sure this violence was softened or within guidelines, right? And when they followed the law according to courts, this was something that was tried. And the argument made by primarily the Los Angeles Police Protective League and pigs like Jim McDonnell was that there was some kind of violation in place. And in truth, that didn't happen at all, right? And so what was the cost of, Liz Rhodes following the law? Retaliation, their termination, a narrative about them working with activist groups. And that's not to say Liz Rhodes isn't also complicit in this violence too, right? We don't kind of support or even enforce the idea that there is a constitutional form of policing. And her job also sanitized a shit ton of violence that we may not even see. But just to say, I hope this eats at you. I hope hearing these families really eats at you because especially folks like you, Errol Southers, who've made a career out of demonizing these communities, you know what the function is. You know this violence to be the goal. And it will keep happening as long as this institution exists. And that's why you're looking down right now. You're cowards. I yield the rest of my time.
Grace.
Of course, this body will extend a contract with the DOJ for addressing hate crimes program for LAPD, as if that somehow masks the everyday violence you greenlight. It's really laughable, really, this idea that the Board of Police Commissioners is invested in addressing hate, when you continue to approve budgets and programs that fuel one of the most violent white supremacist institutions in this city. You sit up here every week pretending this commission is about oversight while funneling another $145,000 into the pockets of death-making surveillance contractors, this time for more ALPRs in West LA. Just last year, LAPD peddled racist hysteria about so-called South American theft rings to justify installing more ALPRs in rich white neighborhoods. These license plate readers don't stop harm. They expand the surveillance dragnet, feeding data into fusion centers and real-time crime centers that federal agencies like ICE and DHS plug right into. And that's not speculation, it's written in your own damn contracts. And you know exactly what you're doing. You'll nod along to words like diversity and safety while signing off on surveillance, harassment, and deportation. You'll let LAPD parade itself as a force against hate while its officers brutalize people in the street and feed data into FBI and ICE. You sit here pretending you have a conscience while LAPD continues to murder community members in cold blood. Linda Becerra Moran, Young Yang, Takar Smith, Oscar Leon Sanchez, all people in crisis who needed care and support, something LAPD will never be able to offer because its function is to kill and criminalize and escalate. For every person the LAPD murders, dozens of people have to live with the fucking weight that their loved one died scared, handcuffed, and dehumanized by LAPD. It's not shocking for you, it's just business as usual for this board because you sit here over and over and over and over again while people grieve and beg you to hold these officers accountable. What you don't realize, you just can't get into your heads, is that these murders are enabled because of you, like everyone else already said. Each and every single one of you allows these murders to continue to happen because your function is to legitimize the machinery of policing, to funnel more money and resources into an institution built on anti-Black violence, criminalization, and social control. Your silence is not passive, it is an active function of your position. You pretend to care, but you don't. You're here to manufacture the illusion of oversight while rubber stamping every tool, every contract, every policy that strengthens LAPD's ability to repress and kill. You all have blood on your hands, but we see it. We see the theater, the performance of care, while you hand over money and power to the very people enacting the violence you pretend to fight. There's no integrity in this body, only rubber stamps, polished lies, and the cowardice of those too afraid or too comfortable to name the violence for what it is. We will not let you be comfortable.
Quinn. Next we have Quinn.
For you this week. You asked Jim if LAPD supports ICE. Jim said somewhat, and then you proceeded to simply forget what he said because you sounded like a staffer wrote out your questions verbatim. Your subsequent question was how to dispel the mere perception and dispel the fear that LAPD was aiding ICE. Reality check, it's not fear, it's a fact. LAPD has and always will aid ICE. You're a violent body, expect nothing less. And expect the public to know the reality even when you pretend not to. It should actually be no shock then that you have all granted $140 grand, putting it all up for grabs for new automatic license plate readers. I'm getting deja vu because I feel like we read you a whole fucking letter last month on the explicit and real harms of ALPRs. But it's okay, I understand. You weren't paying attention. Errol, you probably were too busy thinking about how to brutalize kids on college campuses again. I'll break it down for you, though. Automatic license plate readers, ALPRs, are used to document faces, plates, cars, and movements of populations that you and the state have deemed disposable. You even name that. You say that ALPRs target criminals and undocumented folks. Then you actively share that information between LAPD, ICE, DHS, and other federal agencies via the information sharing environment. I said it last meeting, and I'll say it again. You and your piglets are the biggest fucking serial killers in this city. The spoke of their son Young, who was killed by you 11 months ago, and his parents detailed the way that at every turn you chose the most evil option. Anthony Solo's sister spoke of Anthony's death after you killed him. This happened with Linda Becerra Moran too, when she called for help because she was being human trafficked and you all shot her. You handcuffed her and watched her bleed to death while she was cuffed. She died in your custody. Young Yang died in your custody. Andrew Sorrell died in your custody. And yes, it's you. You metaphorically hide everybody every time. Linda and Young and Andrew are not the only examples. Even if you use non-lethals, even if you provide mental health support, or even if you sitting up there are not the literal shooter, you all choose to kill every time. Back in January, a child was stabbed, and it took you all a fucking eternity to send paramedics because you instead sent pigs to brutalize children. Again. Your officers tried to stop medical care from being administered. You train and encourage your piglets to kill. Children, someone's son, someone's brother, someone's sister, someone's daughter. And the reason it's all possible is because you are there to clean up after the kill. You posture and you pose and you perform so that your little army of piglets can kill with their unfettered power, weapons, surveillance, and violence. Fuck you, I yield the rest of my time.
Adam. Next we have Adam. Okay. Pat Berry.
Thank you for the chance to speak to you, and I congratulate all of my brothers and sisters here fighting and resisting violence in the street. It's got to stop. And I hope, Jim McConnell, you will meet with me and my person that I'm advocating for, Celia Smith, because of the domestic violence that LAPD and its attorneys are engaging in against Celia Smith, a young Black mother and a survivor of the domestic violence of Christopher Darden, your good friend. Brente, Soto, Warren are continuing the domestic violence in a federal lawsuit which Celia Smith filed against Darden, LAPD, the bar in Los Angeles Superior Court, Smith v. Darden, case number 24-01673. It is no surprise that Celia is a victim of LAPD's domestic violence and retaliation. The LA Times reported that numerous LAPD officers have engaged in racist, sexist, and gay invective against African Americans, Latinx, and lesbians over a long period of time. Celia's request to the LAPD in the lawsuit is simple. Finish what Chief Charlie Beck had started for his friend in January 2017, which was a criminal investigation of Darden's totally false and reprehensible report that Celia was threatening him and his family. When LAPD realized that Celia was innocent, it dropped the investigation. Darden continues to go after the mother of his child repeatedly by repeating the vile allegations made to Beck in 2017. It's further retaliation against Celia when Celia requested LAPD 2 or 3 weeks ago to conduct a welfare check of her 12-year-old daughter, who she learned is not doing well in the sole custody of Darden, who literally stole the child thanks to Judge William Weinberger, who would not allow Celia to speak or present evidence after she had raised her child as a single Black mother for 10 years. We need strong Black mothers to raise their daughters. It is critical today because of the gender racism which continues in the United States, encouraged by monsters like Trump and Musk, who themselves were victims of domestic violence. When Black women like Celia are abused by a government agency who promises to protect and defend, but instead harasses the domestic violence survivor like Celia and protects her perpetrator like that reprehensible Christopher Darden because he's an insider and gets everything he wants from LAPD, from the bar, and from LA Superior Court. It hurts every single one of us in this room. I am, and you are, connected to our sister Karina. You are connected to every family member who died, who had members die at the hands of LAPD officers. The officers themselves are as entangled with the people that they murder. We can't escape that we are all together in this mess. Jim McConnell, I beg you to stop this madness and force LAPD and its attorneys into a reasonable settlement with Celia. She has suffered enough thanks to LAPD, the bar, Los Angeles Superior Court, and Christopher Darden. For those who are interested in the federal lawsuit against Darden, LAPD, the bar, and LA Superior Court, I have an email, LA Mothers for Justice, one word, lowercase, @yahoo.com. Thank you again, but don't forget, we have to look at the values, but they're soft, they're sissy. Who wants to listen to women suggesting that maybe if you sent in officers without guns, without uniforms, who are trained to deal with the mentally ill, we could have such a different city. And I can't thank enough for the young men and women standing up for the families and the victims of LAPD violence. We have to stop it. We are becoming a Trumpian universe. Thank you so much for your kind attendance to what I have to say. And I'd like to have this made part of the record. I only made 5 for the commissioners and the chair.
Okay.
But I beg you to consider we have to get rid of this violence.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next, we have Akili. Akili's next. Okay, Mr. President, that concludes public comment.
Thank you. The commission will now take a 10-minute recess. We will return at 11:15. Thank you. Any questions or comments or any items that any commissioners would like to pull? Vice President Shields?
No, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Garcia?
None, thank you.
Mr. Calanche?
I do have one. 1 second, let me just find it.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness gracious.
Am I looking at the right agenda? I believe it was I, but let me just confirm.
Oops, no. So only A, we have A through G today.
Am I looking,
Take your time, we're good.
am I looking at the right agenda? Oh, shoot, okay. Sorry, I have the wrong agenda on the, no, we're good. I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Hearing none, I move that we approve the recommendation for board action for items 3A through G. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Commission will now move on to agenda item number 4.
Oh, my God.
Regular agenda items. We have 4A, a verbal presentation relative to the field training officer selection, and I have Deputy Chief Reyna and Captain Wong. Good morning, gentlemen. And Sergeant Hooper.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chief McDonald, Inspector General Barragan, Executive Director Sibley, and Deputy City Attorney De La Guerra. I'm joined here today by Captain James Wang, Assistant Commanding Officer of Training Division, and Sergeant Victor Hooper, also assigned to Training Division, and who oversees our field training program. As part of the recommendations from the Field Training Program report submitted by the Inspector General's Office and adopted by the Board of Police Commissioners on October 8th, 2024, the Department was asked to verbally present to the Board on the FTO selection process, covering the criteria for ideal field training officers, as well as recruitment, training, review processes, and accountability for the field training officers. We do have a PowerPoint presentation ready for you to view, and this time I'd like Sergeant Hooper to discuss the FTO program in detail.
I'll begin with an overview of Post-Commission Regulation 1004 requirements for field training program. Under Post-Commission Regulation 1004, the field training program must ensure that the field training officers meet the following criteria. Certification and experience. FTOs must possess a basic post certificate and have at least 1 year of general law enforcement experience. In uniform patrol duties. Selection process. FTOs are to be selected through a department-specific process, ensuring alignment with agency standards and expectations. Training compliance. FTOs must fulfill the training requirements outlined in subsection 1004D of the Post-Commission Regulation. Eligibility standards. FTOs must be prohibited from training as stipulated in California Government Code 7286B18. This section provides guidance for evaluating and reviewing use of force incidents to identify trends, as well as to address training and equipment needs. Additionally, Post-Commission 1004 mandated that all law enforcement agencies must have established a policy setting a minimum standard for the use of force no later than January 2021. Compliance with the training requirements specified in subsection 1004D remains a critical component of this regulation. And here we are with 1004D. Every newly appointed field training officer shall successfully complete a post-certified field training officer course prior to providing training to new officers, and complete 24 hours of department-specific update training every 3 years following an initial field training officer course. This update training shall include a minimum of 8 hours dedicated to crisis intervention and behavioral health training, which is generally covered by our mental health investigation course. So that was post, and next we're going to go on to LEPD requirements. So, of course, post requirements are in effect, and then LEPD has their set standards for an FTO. LEPD's eligibility requirements for field train officer selection. Sworn personnel seeking selection as a field train officer must comply with Department Manual Section 3/76385 and Peace Officer Standards and Training Regulation 1004D, and possess the following qualifications. A current Police Officer 3 serving in a non-FTO position, or a Police Officer 2 currently on the Police Officer 3 eligibility list competing for an FTO position through the advanced pay grade selection process, or a Police Officer 3 laterally transferring into an FTO position. LAPD requires that the following service and experience for FTO eligibility: a minimum of 3 years of service with the department, and at least 2 years of experience in an eligible geographic field, traffic assignment, transit assignment, with qualifying patrol experience and possession of a post-basic certification. The department selection process for field training officers. It requires that candidates submit an application, participate in an oral interview, and successfully pass a comprehensive work history review. No FTO shall train probationary officers in the structured field training program period until they have achieved post-certification by completing the 40-hour field training officers course and the 36-hour mental health intervention training course, as mandated by Senate Bill 29 regarding peace officer training. Review of candidate work history and evaluation of findings. Eligible sworn personnel competing for an FTO assignment must submit the following documentation: a transfer applicant data sheet, that's Form 1588, 2 of the candidate's most recent standards-based assessments, and a current training evaluation management system, TEAMS, report for promotional or pay grade advancement.
We're moving into the selection process for the department. This is largely done at the commanding officer level, influenced with the process that we do. The intent of reviewing a selected candidate's work history is to assist the evaluation of appropriateness for FTO duties and responsibilities. Department managers are responsible for reviewing the documentation as well as utilizing department databases, information, and other documents to assist in selecting FTO candidates' work history. These include sustained complaint history, also includes information about failure to qualify, failure to appear, preventable traffic collisions, and also any adverse judicial findings. Supervisor and managers shall document their consideration of any sustained complaint, adverse judicial findings, or discipline against a selected candidate on a team's evaluation report for each of these following subjects: excessive use of force, improper search or seizure, discrimination, false arrest or charge, sexual harassment, or dishonesty. When we look at the total FTO, this is a very important position in the department, and we're also looking for character and professional attributes. Some subjects that we delve into while looking at the candidate is integrity and impartiality, their ability for leadership, their communication, their ability for critical thinking and problem solving, their ability to make decisions and decision making, accountability for personal conduct and professional conduct, the professionalism and respect for people, both within the department and outside the department, their adaptabilities, flexibility for situations, their commitment to learning, as we want good FTOs as anyone to be lifetime learners, and also their attention to detail. When we look at the total experience, again, we look at, for the department, classifications is also comports with the post necessary attributes. So the field training officer program shall have field training officers who have been awarded a post-basic certificate, not a specialized one, have a minimum 1 year general law enforcement uniform patrol experience. When we're looking at lateral officers who have joined the department, we also look at lateral officers who are also possessing a basic post certificate and who have also completed a post-approved field training officer program. We're all looking for candidates who have 1 year previous experience performing general law enforcement uniform duties. When we look at the officer's experience, there's also officers that we look at that are currently police officer 3s in a non-FTO position. This could be a person who's assigned to Vice, Metropolitan Division, or a large assortment of police officer 3s in the rank but are currently not in FTO. They must have a minimum of 3 years, which is 39 deployment periods of service with the department. They've also have to perform 2 years or 26 deployment periods in an eligible geographic field or patrol function. That can also include traffic assignment or transit assignment. That also includes, those are all eligible for patrol experience. When we're looking for the field patrol experience, we're looking for assignments to an A car, an X car, a T car, footbeat, bicycles, could be also a motor unit. Patrol experience may also include essential patrol, traffic or transit assignments such as the front desk or kit room, but those assignments should not have been, they should been incidental to an officer's qualifying primary duty assignments and not the result of a temporary physical duty restriction. Assignments on loans to specialized units, including gangs, community relations, juvenile car, school car, narcotics, do not count toward patrol experience. So I'd like to give this back to Sergeant Hooper. He's going to go over, when we look at the total character and person of the FTO that we're looking for, him as the OIC has an intimate idea of what we're trying to do for the department.
What we're looking for in an exemplary field trained officer is someone that transcends the role of teacher and supervisor and embodying the qualities of a mentor, a leader, and a role model. The ideal FTO strikes a balance between empathy and accountability, pairs extensive knowledge with effective communication, and tempers patience with the ability to inspire motivation. A distinguished FTO fosters an environment where probationary officers feel supported, yet challenged, equipping them with the skills, confidence, and professionalism necessary to excel as officers and to serve the community with respect and unwavering adherence to the law. The foundation of an FTO is a profound commitment to service and sacrifice. They uphold the highest standard of honor, integrity, diligence, and consistently leading by example with a resolute determination. An FTO does not merely guide, they lead from the forefront, ensuring no probation officer is left unsupported. As both a servant to the community and a pillar of strength for probationary officers, an FTO provides steadfast guidance and encouragement, navigating even the most formidable challenges alongside the probationary officers. An FTO's dedication is resolute, marked by a readiness to confront any obstacle without hesitation. To embody the title of a field trained officer, the ideal candidate must exemplify leadership, responsibility, dedication, pride, and these qualities define the essence of this vital role. This slide was created in response to the Office of the Inspector General's review of the field training program per Recommendation 2.2. Recommendation 2.2 requested that a comprehensive list of all active and inactive FTOs be completed. As per Recommendation 2.2, this sheet categorized Peace Officer 3s based on their FTO certification status at the time. And this identified those who were working with a probationary officer, those that were scheduled to work with a probationary officer soon, and those who were not currently assigned a probationary officer, and utilized the training coordinators for each division in the department to create this sheet. The data collected located 1,902 police officer 3s, located 680 that were FTOs currently, and 147 numbers based on recruitment probationary officers that were with FTOs at that time. This was compiled using data collected during deployment period 13 of 2024.
Can I interrupt really quick? Can you go over, like, say, I'm trying to understand this tables. Can you
Yes,
go
ma'am.
over, like, say, 77th and explain all the way across?
Sure. For 77th, we see that, of course, that's division of assignment, and then box number 2 is the number of police officer 3s assigned at the division, which is 46. And in the next box over, we see the number of certified FTOs at that division. So there's 46 that are P3s assigned in the division, but only 28 of them are active FTOs. Of those 28 FTOs at the time, as FTO certified personnel, only 4 of them were currently working with a probationary officer at the division. So a probationary officer at the division is someone that's in their phase 2 of their probationary period and is getting a daily report. Yes, and then the next 24 that were accounted for are the number of certified FTOs not currently assigned to work with a P1 that are at the division, but as recruitment ramps up, they are ready to go. There's no pay upgrade. There's no pay upgrade between police officer 3 and FTO. It's the same pay grade, which is an issue we had with personnel in attempting to find everyone, because personnel sees FTOs and P3 as the exact same. They are FTOs because they have the post certification to be FTOs.
Did they become P3s because they became FTOs?
Oh, that's a good question, ma'am. I can't speak for all of them with that one. I don't know. It's just some of them maintain their FTO status. Like, speaking of upgraded pay, a couple of them in all of these divisions are senior lead officers that wish to maintain their FTO status. So they are a different pay because they're police officer 3 plus 1. Some of them that maintain their FTO certification are senior leads. Any further questions on that, ma'am?
We were really interested in was the actual like officers that were training the P2s or so in this case we would be looking at that third column. These are the field training officers that are out there on patrol with the
So if I can interject, with 77th, there's 28 certified field training officers in the division that have went through all these certifications. There's only 4 P1s assigned to 77th that are in phase 2 that mandate that they're assigned to a field training officer. Meaning there's not enough P1s for all the training officers to be married with the P1. There's only 4 in the phase 2. All the other P1s that may be there or other P2s could be working with these FTOs, but we're just, the number 4 is that's what's mandated. An assignment of a P3 to a P1, there's only 4 of those relationships right now in 77th because there's only 4 P1s there that are in phase 2.
because of our graduation and all that.
Because of the low
rates.
numbers of
So technically then, at 77th, we could potentially have, if we had the numbers, we could have 28 P1s or P2s.
Correct, so that for that box 4, number 24, if we were to assign, let's say we had a graduating class of 24 P1s today and they all went to 77th, we would have enough FTO certified to work with those P1s.
Got it,
In their
okay.
phase 2 probationary period.
So the other 24 are just on regular patrol as P3s,
Correct.
possibly, or doing something other than FTO.
Yes, ma'am. They're FTO certified, but they're not currently working with the P1. Could be doing any task that the division asked them to do.
Got it.
And as a reminder, even if a P3 or multiple P3s are on that shift and not with a P1, they are the senior leaders of the shift.
Right.
And expected to take command and control of situations and to guide and lead the rest of the patrol officers on the shift.
Got it, okay. That's helpful. I was trying to understand the table. Thank you. Oh, just a moment.
Any further questions? Any further questions regarding the FTO program? Yes, sir.
Are you completed with your PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. A few questions. On the interview, it's been a few years since I was an FTO. In the interview process, who sits on that interview and how many people to become an FTO? So I've applied to become an FTO. Who's going to be on that interview panel?
Generally 3, sir. There are generally 3 people,
Rank?
usually sergeants,
All sergeants?
possibly lieutenant.
Okay. Second question is, as we identify adverse judicial findings, what's the threshold for disqualification from eligibility?
So I think I could take that. So the accountability piece when it comes to FTOs, there's 2 different arenas. One would be disciplinary action, some type of serious misconduct. So if that comes to light with whatever division has at FTO, some type of allegation of serious misconduct, the captains will consult with the bureau commanders. We also work with our employee relations group to see if it rises to the level for immediately downgrade of that individual pending the outcome of that investigation. We don't leave the individual if it's a serious misconduct. So if you have a P3 who's arrested for something off duty, for example, and we look at that as egregious serious misconduct, we'll work with employee relations group, professional standards bureau, and our bureau to come to that decision to downgrade immediately, not leave them in that position pending the outcome of the investigation. If for some reason the allegations turn out to be no misconduct or unfounded, then the individual would come back to that FTO position.
So as an example, accidents happen. Suppose we had an applicant who's had an accidental discharge. Would that be cause for not considering that officer to be an FTO?
It could be. It could be, you'd have to take into account their complaint history, any other adverse paperwork in their personnel file, so to speak. All that will come into play in that discussion with employee relations group. Sometimes we bring in the city attorney's office to weigh in for guidance on that and whether or not it meets that criteria and that threshold.
Okay. And then Sarge, forgive me for not seeing it, if it was already there. When our graduates come out of the academy on Friday, they're with an FTO. How long are they in the program? Do you have
24,
to-
yes, sir. Sorry, I didn't let you finish your question. The phase 2 is 24 weeks, so they
24.
have,
With how many FTOs?
they're gonna go through one FTO every other deployment period.
Do they start and end with the same person?
No, sir. They're gonna go through 3 different FTOs preferably.
Okay, okay. Some departments, what happens is when they come out of the academy, they've got an FTO, you cycle through with that person, 2 other new people, and then at the end, that original FTO is the one who's doing the final evaluation. I was just wondering, is that's how we did it here?
No, sir.
Okay, got it.
Different FTOs for each deployment period.
Thank you.
And
And
it's-
I think Commissioner Kalanche asked the questions I would have asked about deployment and resources, because at least on one occasion, it was brought to my attention that, I can't remember what division it was, but we didn't have enough FTOs. It would seem by your numbers that that's pretty unlikely, because we've got so many.
It's probably unlikely, and if that was the case for some reason where a division needed additional FTOs, then obviously the Bureau works together with the other divisions of loaning FTOs from one division to another to take care of that training for that P1.
Okay, thank you. Vice President Shields.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And I think, all of the ideal FTO criteria that you articulated is really, on point in terms of the people we want in the seat guiding the next generation of officers. And I was glad to see that it looks like the department is going above and beyond what is post required. I think having someone be the teacher after just 1 year of experience is probably not the most ideal situation. So just in terms of general, of the ones that are active FTOs, do you have a sense of I understand our minimum is 3 years with the department and at least 2 years on patrol. Do we have a sense of are these people right at the 2-year mark, or people who've been patrolling for a longer period of time?
The average is roughly 5 years.
5 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. And how often are we doing interviews for FTO positions, given kind of the numbers that we have? And it looks like we have more FTOs.
I think that's a difficult question based on budgeting, hiring status, allowing for advertisements for upgrades with our critical vacancies, but that's all handled. Each division will list what they're looking for as far as upgrades and what's needed in the division, and it makes its way through the chain of command to Chief Randolph's office and Police Administrator Anne Marie Sauer, and they convene a meeting and they discuss who would be getting those positions based on budgeting and availability. Not every position can be advertised. So each month there's meetings about that, and then different divisions get those advertisements. So it just really depends on the criticality of that in the division and what they're seeing and what they need. So.
I had a question. There was references to the lateral entry officers. Can you talk a little bit about that? Are these people coming from other departments and becoming FTOs within this department?
Generally, for the lateral portion, it's going to be people that were police officer 3s elsewhere in the department and have opted to come to a patrol area and be an FTO.
And so when we're looking at the number of years of patrol, do we look at how long ago they were on patrol? So if someone's been in the department 15 years, and then it's 15 years ago I was on for a couple of years, and that's about as I haven't been out on the street in a while. I don't know what the academy is training these days, but this is how you do it. Do we have anything like that, or do we try to keep it close to in time?
If someone met that criteria where they hadn't been out in the field in a while and just became an FTO, they'd still be required to go through the 40-hour FTO basic course and be trained on the actions FTO, field duties, use of force, and pursuit policy.
So they would have to go through basically the academy training again so that they understand what's currently being taught.
Specifically the FTO course, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. I think I just had a couple more questions. Sorry, if any of my colleagues want to ask. With regards to the interviewing process, I think President Suthers ask the question I had, but in terms of just the makeup, making sure that it's people that are of all backgrounds so that people aren't being selected based on just confirmation bias or kind of like, oh, you're just like me, I like you, and making sure that there's, diverse panels is important. I don't know if anyone wants to speak on that.
And we do that. As commanding officers, when we're aware that there's going to be an advertisement and that interview, we try to make that panel as diverse as possible. Males, females, whatever race we can that's available for that interview process. And it doesn't mean that if there's a few days of interviews, for example, a couple openings with multiple people, 20 or 30 people applying, we can change that board or allow to do that, to have different people on that board also throughout the process. So we try really hard to make sure that it's a very diverse board for that.
Great. And we've been talking about kind of the selection, how to become an FTO and be certified. Is there ever a deselection process, or is it once an FTO, always an FTO? Given the criteria that we're looking at, the ideal characteristics, some people may start off as a great mentor and then get jaded and not be the best, person. How do we assess that?
We do have a process for deselection for that rank. It's a standard process, and we do work with the employee relations group for that, for a deselection process for FTO. The process within the division also, if we identify someone that's insufficient as that role at FTO, they may maintain their rank, but go to a different type of assignment that may fit them better. Or we also have work with, if we do find that we need to make some adjustments or some development for a person within this division itself. A lot of resources there with senior staff, training coordinators and such. And if we need to seek out with Sergeant Hooper's unit, we can always seek out that resource.
Yeah, so different than disciplinary action that we talked about earlier. If, let's say an FTO starts out great, but now is having some issues, there's a lot we can do. Additional training, like Captain Wang's saying, working with our training coordinators and our P1 coordinators to provide training, having counseling sessions with those individuals. But if it has to be progressive moving up because they're not completing paperwork correctly, they're not doing their job correctly, they're not training correctly, and we're getting that feedback, it'll now turn into a documentation type of disciplinary, progressive discipline to a point where we'll work with employee relations group, again, in meeting and consulting, whether that has now met the criteria that we have enough to say this FTO, although we selected this person 2 years ago and was great, but is now not getting it or doesn't want to do the job anymore. Do we have enough then to deselect and downgrade that person back to a P2? So we'll work through the system. We'll work with our entities within the department that can assist us on that. But there is a process for that. But it usually starts with having those conversations with the captain and lieutenant, sitting down with the FTO and having a discussion to understand why that person's not doing the job the way they were or we selected them to do. But then we can take action moving forward.
Yeah, I really don't want the deselection process to be too cumbersome in the sense of this is a position of trust, right? And if someone's lost, or if people have lost the faith that this is the person doing the best that we have, given that we have so many, that if someone is falling short or if wouldn't be selected now, given developments, I really do want to better understand, like, when we take those types of actions to go to deselection and not have to wait for them to go through multiple rounds of other recruits where we don't have this confidence that they are the best position to be the trainers. So hopefully it's, and maybe we need to talk to like the employee relations group or others, but I see this as a bonus, kind of like a very important position that we can't have. We have to have our A team all the time. And if people are falling short, it doesn't need to be a disciplinary process. Not everyone's meant to be a great mentor. Not everyone's great at communication. It's not to say that they should be disciplined because they're bad communicators. They just shouldn't be field training officers. So I think we need to make sure we're looking at it through that type of lens, not through a disciplinary process or negative work result. It's just they're not supposed to be in that role. So I'll yield the rest of my questions, but I may have questions for the Inspector General's office after everyone else has talked.
Thank you. Commissioner Clanche.
Sure. Just to follow that line of thought, Commissioner Shields is bringing up about the right person, the right fit for the FTO. So I have a couple of questions. So you have these certified FTOs, but then you do select the ones, because we have less spots available than those that are certified in that division. There is a process for I'm assuming the division then decides who gets the P1s, or how is that decision made?
Yes, yes. That decision is going to be made through the training quarter and the P1 coordinator for each division.
Okay, so then potentially if you have 24 there, or 26 or 28 that are certified, you might then pick your strongest to work with the P1s.
You, as a former CO, yes, you could pick your strongest, but you also want to allow each FTO that opportunity, and not just rely on that strongest person each time.
Okay, so they may all rotate in as FTOs.
Correct.
Every deployment potentially.
That's correct, and depending on
Got
what
it.
shift the P1 is assigned to, day shift, night shift, mid shift. And also we have to take into account, and going back to Commissioner Shields' point of, it's not necessarily disciplinary when an FTO is not doing their job. Sometimes there's burnout. Sometimes they're constantly training, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot
They
of
don't
work.
necessarily get downgraded to a P2. They just
No.
are not FTOs anymore.
Correct. Well, if we notice as a commanding officer, if I notice that I have a good FTO that's getting burnt out, then I'm going to give that person a break. Maybe take a month or two. They're still in their rank. They're still doing their thing. They're still out on patrol, but we just won't assign them a P1 or her a P1 just to give that person a break, because it is taxing. It is a lot of work, a lot of paperwork, which we'll talk about a new system coming online that may
Yeah.
help with that. A lot of ratings they have to do each day and each week, and it can burn some people out. So we
Yeah,
just want to be
sounds-
careful, and that's
yeah.
why we want to rotate through
Makes
the
sense.
different
Okay,
FTOs.
perfect. Okay, so then a couple of questions. The personal attributes, as Commissioner Shields mentioned, are great. How are these assessed? Because they're not taking a test. So is it just through like the verbal interview, or just looking at their entire packet? Like, how are we assessing that? And then how do we continue to train on those attributes to continue to build? And then the last question, kind of connected to this, is one of the important things for me, for FTO, is to also instill good, community engagement and things like that. So is that part of the training? Is that something that's valued? Because I think that's really important as we're training new officers out in the field. So those like 3 questions, sorry.
So when we look at the total package for an officer, the selection process, as we go through the interview process, that's where we get a chance to get to know some people that we may not know. Also, if they're working within the section or people know them, there's already work reputation of what they're doing. A key thing for all of us looking at people is on their application, we're going to look at their references. And those references will give us a good understanding of what their actual product is, who they really are as a person, because these people may have known them much longer than that process. So when you look at the totality of everything we look at the reports, the department resources, we look at the records and such. We look at the interview process to get to know someone better. And then we also look at looking at people who know that person. So that selection process can take a little bit of time. It's not just completed at the end of the interview, although many times there's candidates that do very well at the interview. There may be several candidates we're looking at that will all be in this final phase process as we start to do a screen down from those final candidates. We're very fortunate at this time where there's many candidates that are applying for these positions, and we're able to pick our best people, and we are very fortunate in that sense. So I'm very confident in the process right now that we do have our best people working as FTOs in this current process.
And then just one last thing. I think in a presentation we had some months ago, I think I recall that P1s that are going through like the second phase with the FTOs do get to evaluate the FTOs. Is that correct?
That is something, yes, they can, and there is a process for that.
Because I seem to recall that. Okay. Okay.
There's also the police science and leadership course that is at the end of probation, and we get a chance to talk to P1s as they exit and move on to their full careers. And there's also a time there to reflect back and give us feedback on the FTO process.
Okay. And then you take that feedback from the P1s to kind of better assess like who's a good fit, I'm assuming?
It could be assessing the school for FTOs. It could be assessing the paperwork. A lot of things can come out of that meeting. But to go back to your question also, regarding just making sure that, you know, they're doing the right thing. And yes, the P1s, in the Inspector General's report, it discussed that there is a process, but may not have been as obvious for the P1s that they can evaluate their FTOs. And maybe there's some concern of P1s doing that. You know, they're concerned about saying exactly what they feel about their FTO. So we're working with the Inspector General's office and with our FTO unit and our training to encourage those P1s that it's okay. It's okay to evaluate your FTO. Have no fear of retaliation and things like that. We want you to tell us how the training's going for you. We want to make sure you succeed. We want to make sure that FTO is doing it right and can succeed also.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. I mean, not for a punitive, you know, in a punitive way, but just to kind of better understand the program and what P1s are actually getting out of it.
And we also, each patrol watch has what we call den sergeants. So sergeant is assigned to certain cars and oversees certain P2s, P3s, P1s assigned to different cars. And the sergeants are required to meet with the FTOs and the P1s and have those conversations and encourage that. And I've known cases where P1s will say, you know, my FTO doesn't talk a lot. I had an FTO that talked a lot, and this one doesn't talk that much. So then it's incumbent upon that sergeant to have that conversation with the FTO to say, hey, to better yourself, you could probably do this and get more engaged and talk a little more and explain a little more as you're sitting in that car for hours with that P1 driving around going to calls. So there is a lot of layers and there's a lot of checks and balances throughout the process.
And how many deployments are the P1s with the FTO? Is it 6 or 3 deployments?
6, ma'am.
6?
6, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you all for the report or the presentation. There's a lot of little questions I have, and a lot of them have already been asked. So if I can sort of request that there be an updated matrix, so the breakdown you all shared with the numbers, if there can be something that's a little bit more detailed that covers some of the questions on diversity of experience, years on the department. I'd like to see diversity of watch assignments. You mentioned 3 different FTOs in the same watch. More questions around, is there a reason or a benefit to keeping it within a watch? And are there ways to do a morning watch and midday and evening watch? So if we can just kind of see a more robust sheet that hopefully allows us to see more of that detail, no need to come back, just send it over. Because I think it is, as you see it, so the questions that we have are very much about process and detail and better understanding who is there, why they're there, and how we ensure that the best are FTOs. The other part of it is you mentioned there was a question asked about, you know, is them becoming an FTO connected to them becoming a P3, and so the answer was no. But it sort of feels like the reverse of that is almost a yes, right? Not to say that you will demote someone, but there's got to be something in order to remove someone from their FTO status. There has to be that conversation of it's a behavior that is worth exploring, that potentially is worth demoting the officer for. And so, is there a way to build the FTO status in a way that is a privilege and is more temporary than permanent? And even in the original agreements of getting folks, or the original process of getting folks to FTO status, can there be language in there that says you have to uphold these expectations to this level, and if you don't, you lose the FTO status, right? It's almost like you're agreeing to voluntarily lose that status if you don't meet these or maintain these requirements, as opposed to having to then identify something to discipline the officer for, to remove them from that status.
Yeah, and I think just to go along with that, so again, 2 different areas. Disciplinary action on misconduct that would cause a downgrade of a P3 to P2, or if the FTO is just not doing their job and not upholding those standards that we thought they had and selected them for. Two different arenas, but that one is a little more difficult because you are taking away, in a sense, a person's pay and their status. That would be to change that process to make it more definitive. Would have to work with, obviously, Police Protective League and with Employee Relations Group and the City Attorney's Office on that to make sure that we're doing that correctly and everyone's in the know. So it's not subjective from division to division. Because someone, a commanding officer could assess an FTO and say, I don't think you're doing your job and we're just gonna downgrade you. Or maybe a different commanding officer is gonna look at it differently. So we'd have to, we're gonna work with the Inspector General's office on this. It was in their report to come up with something a little more definitive on that process. But again, it comes down to the FTO's performance and starting on that lowest level of counseling, having that discussion. Are they burnt out? Are they having something issue off duty that's affecting the way they're training? Let's have a conversation first and let's go from there to see if we can correct that action, and then moving up from there to a point where if we're all in agreement that that person should no longer be an FTO, do we have enough to do that? But we can look at that process a little more robust moving forward with the Inspector General's office.
Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I learned a lot. As a new kid on the block here, it was a little overwhelming, a little bit over my head, but with time, I think I'll get it. And the questions that were asked by my colleagues have answered many of my questions, so I think I'm okay. Thank you again.
Thank you, and again, thank you for the presentation. I have one more question. You know, the 41 academies in the state, by and large, those academies, like Rio Hondo, Fullerton, and others that take officers from departments to be on staff there, they typically will select from their FTO cadres to put those folks on academy staffs. I'm just curious, and I don't need to know today, I'm just curious how many of our academy staff, DIs, PT instructors, DT instructors, were FTOs before they got to the academy, and I'm just curious to see if that's how we do it. There are obvious advantages to that, and I'm just curious to know what that demographic might look like, and I don't need that number today unless you have it.
I can't speak for the full academy, sir, but for the FTO unit, they are comprised of very senior field training officers previously before they came to train as instructors for the program.
Great, okay, thank you. Yes, Commissioner Shields.
Yeah, thank you. And again, I hope you all go back and give a lot of credit to the FTOs. And I think they're an invaluable part of the department. So thank you all for helping train them and getting them to be where they are. And I wanted to thank the Inspector General's office for basically bringing this topic. And this whole conversation started because of the report that was prepared by the Inspector General's office. And I'm glad to hear that you're working with them both in terms of helping to make sure we're properly evaluating the effectiveness of FTOs, and then also working on, potentially identifying the criteria for like deselection or that process to make sure we fully understand that. But I was going to ask the Inspector General's office is just there because I don't have the report in front of me that was originally prepared. Is there anything else that we should discuss from the Inspector General's report in connection with this topic?
Yeah, I think the things that I was noting as I considered the report and the presentation, thank you again for the presentation, a great focus on selection, and I think the process for identifying and addressing some of the issues that we might see in the, from the field training officer. I heard adverse findings or reports back from individuals, and so just how the department is tracking and evaluating that and intends to do that moving forward. I think that was part of the report, and I didn't hear some of that today. So I also am one of the new kids on the block as well, and so I wanted to just ask if Brian Buckner, Assistant Inspector General, has any other questions or issues on. And thank you for collaborating with our office. I just would like to give him an opportunity to kind of address that.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chief Inspector General, Mr. Sibley, Mr. De La Guerra, Brian Buckner, Assistant Inspector General over the office's audit section. The Chief alluded earlier to the department's efforts to procure and implement a learning management system, which will have 3 specific modules. Sorry, Chief, if I'm discussing this, but of the 3 modules, 1 will be for the field training program, 1 will be for the academy training, and 1 will be for the in-service training. And as a result of your approval of the report and recommendations, the department's prioritizing the field training module as the first endeavor. And the department, when we reported in October of last year, I think at that point there had been a lengthy multi-year process to go through the procurement to identify potential vendors. They've identified a potential vendor. They've included us in those conversations now, including with the department's technical experts. And so we've had several meetings and conversations to discuss the more technical aspects of how the department will begin to work with this vendor and roll out this particular module. And one of the reasons, there's a number of reasons why that's important. One of the reasons, to the Inspector General's point, was that will allow the department to utilize a centralized tracking system for FTO performance and all of those FTO forms that will continue to encourage the P1s to complete, all of the police science and leadership surveys, all of the data that the department already collects will be stored in this field training module, which will give the department a much greater overview of the overall performance of the FTO program and allow them to drill down on the specific performance of specific field training officers, because I think that's still a little bit of a blind spot for the department, the ability to track an individual performance over time and identify some potentially underperforming or deficient performance in the FTO.
Yes, and if I could add, we're Sergeant Owen Berger from our Field Training Services Unit for Police Training Education is the lead on that process. It's been a very lengthy, cumbersome process. We do have a vendor identified. What we're trying to do at this stage now is to make sure before we go into contract that the software is actually compatible. We saw some glitches already in testing, and we don't want to just move forward and then all of a sudden we have to stop because things are compatible. So we're working with our ITB section on that. Captain Wang may be able to add, he's been on these committees, but we're at that stage of just testing, and if we can work out those kinks, then we're gonna move forward with this project and proposal.
Thank you. If there are no other questions or comments, again, just thank you all for the hard work. Please let the FTOs know how much they are appreciated and certainly have our support. If there's anything you need, let us know. Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to agenda item 4B, which is the department's report relative to an overview of the virtual reality training program impacts and analysis. I believe I have Chief Reyna again. And Chief, you just let us know who you're joined by, the Lieutenant and the Sergeant. Thank you.
Yes. Again, good afternoon, everyone. I'm now joined by Lieutenant Andrew Cullen, who works with me at Training Bureau, and Sergeant John LaBelle, who is our supervisor in charge of our virtual reality training unit. We're here today to provide an overview of our virtual reality training program. As many of you are aware, with the assistance of the Los Angeles Police Foundation, the department received a state-of-the-art virtual reality system in 2022. We are proud to say that we were the first in the nation to have this cutting-edge technology for use in our training programs. And ever since, our team has been fielding inquiries and calls from agencies all around the country, and they're now considered experts in the field of virtual reality training. Sergeant LaBelle and his team are to be commended for the incredible job they've done building this program to where it is today. The virtual reality system is housed in the gymnasium located at the Elysian Park Academy. Currently, we have 6 main areas where virtual reality training has been incorporated or is occurring. The first is our mental health intervention training, and we've had approximately 26 courses per year on average. Our police science and leadership, we average 13 courses per year. We use it in our supervisor school, which is 8 to 10 times a year. Our LAPD Leadership Academy, which averages 4 courses per year. We have open sessions for specialized units such as SWAT and Gang and Narcotics Division. And our recently created and post-certified 8-hour use of force course, which is run approximately 70 times per year. So just hats off to John LaBelle and his team of getting that course through and getting it post-certified for us. Since 2022, 3,752 personnel have been trained utilizing our virtual reality system, and numerous community members have also experienced this system as part of our outreach and community engagement strategy. Almost 800 class critiques just for the 8-hour use of force course revealed that 98% of the students felt the training was valuable. and 99% gave excellent or good ratings for the course and the virtual reality system itself. A key benefit of the system is that we no longer need to find a location somewhere in the city and bring officers to that location to train. We bring the location to them. From Venice Beach to Hollywood Boulevard to Skid Row, officers are transported to the location in a second. And the scenarios can change each time, testing the officer's skills, knowledge, and ability to adapt in a variety of fluid situations. Moving forward, we are searching for grant opportunities to fund new scenarios, particularly as we prepare for upcoming special events here in the city, such as the World Cup and the Olympics. In addition, we can now train outside agencies for a fee, and that money will support our revolving training fund, which in turn benefits all of our staff, both sworn and civilian. We do want to thank the Los Angeles Police Revolving Athletic Club for their partnership in allowing us to utilize the gymnasium at the Legion Park Academy to house our system. The MOU between the city and LAPRAC provides them with the sole rights to the gymnasium. However, they've been gracious in allowing us to use the gymnasium for the past 3 years while we continue our search for an area where we can move our system. At this time, I'd like to turn over to Sergeant LaBelle to expand on our training program and some items that his team is working on.
I want to actually thank a few of you who actually made the time to come by and actually see the system in action. So please do. And actually, I do extend that invitation out to everybody because, to be honest, this sort of training, it's really hard to understand until you actually experience it firsthand. And so I'll make the attempt of talking a little bit about the more nuances and the specifics of what we're doing here because I can't bring a 5,000 square foot system here to you. So I apologize for that. But yes, like Chief was saying, we've had some incredible feedback and incredible ability to connect with these students. Some of those numbers that he was talking about as far as saying like 99% of students felt it was good or excellent, I'll even break it down further. The number that said good was 10%, and it was 89% of that said it was excellent. Now, that would be kind of a moot point if it was just because it was fun, which it is. But what really matters is there value to it? What are we doing? How are we applying this system to impact the officers and find value from that? And so that's kind of what I want to talk about just for a quick moment. So we build out curriculum for our officers to encounter. And so if you're not aware, the way the system works is I have a large-scale location where I can put upwards of 10 people in simultaneously. Any sort of training always comes with concessions. You're never going to have perfect training because the only perfect training is the actual experience in the field. And LAPD has put training at the forefront. We're one of the agencies that really prioritizes good training and impacting of those officers. And so I've been involved with programs including our tactics units over at Elysian Park, doing scenario-based training, flat stream simulators, things like simunitions where we use paint pellets to simulate being in a dangerous environment. And what VR has really allowed me to do is the stuff that I wish I could have done before, but I wasn't able to. So of course there's concessions. Everything is fake while you're in there. But while you're in there, because everything is fake, everything is real. So those of you who were in the system can attest to the fact that while you're in a virtual situation, everything you look at is part of the situation. There's never a question, is this in play? Is this out of play? Is this part of it? Is this not? And so what's really important is that it's quality curriculum using this system. And so we've reached out to many offices, including the Office of the Inspector General, including Critical Incident Review Division, including our Force Investigations Division, bringing in the experts to make sure we're putting on the best possible training. And on top of that, the flexibility, as you see, we're involved with many different courses. While that 8-hour course is self-contained, we also collaborate and connect with many other portions of the city to be able to provide training. I'll give you a good example of that. Tomorrow, actually, we are working with Mental Evaluation Unit, their CAMP unit, which is the Case Assessment Management Program. It's full of detectives and clinicians that do the deeper investigations, the follow-ups, the after the crisis sort of things. And so we've built one-off scenarios just for them to come through using their experts and their trainers to allow them to encounter a situation where, say, they're going to a location where a family member is concerned about their adult child who's been having many issues. And in this particular script, while they're having this conversation, the adult child now comes home. And now this clinician has to figure out how to manage that more dangerous situation. And more importantly, our officer or detective is going to have to put themselves in a position in the moment to have to protect this clinician, de-escalate the encounter, and think about their positionings where they. So this is a one-off scenario, which is very incredible that we can do it. So I just ran the numbers just yesterday. I have about 142 different scenarios that we've built. in the training world, that's actually pretty incredible. And in fact, in our 8-hour use of force course, we run upwards of 25 entirely separate scenarios in just one 8-hour training session. When I talk about things that I wish I could have done before, that is one of those things. And it's very incredible what we're able to do. And so looking just past the numbers, the impact I see on the officers' faces, the types of conversations I have with these officers is it's really like heartening to me. And to see that the tech that we're able to employ here is actually connecting and making a difference.
Thank you, Sergeant LaBelle. Now I'd like Lieutenant Cullen to discuss our grant requests and our search for our own facility to house our system.
So this system started off as a grant from the Los Angeles Police Foundation, and so we were able to get approximately $1.6 million and able to bring in the system. And the system has been running since 2022, and so we've been doing a lot of things, and we got off the ground. And then we were able to acquire another grant from the Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Affairs for $250,000 that enabled us to really roll out and develop our use of force course that John is talking about in de-escalation. And so we were able to build new assets within that. So we're able to create new scenarios based on trends that we're seeing in use of force and categorical uses of force. And so that grant helped us enable that, also helped us go out to develop some really good de-escalation skills when it comes to crowd control scenarios. And so those grants have enabled that. One of the things that's been asked of us is to be able to study efficacy. And so we're efforting right now, working with different research partners and trying to identify grants, because efficacy when it comes to quantitative data is actually very, very labor intensive. And so as a result of that, we've been approached by RAND, we've been approached by USC, that these are to look for grants either through the Department of Justice or other research partners who are interested in studying the efficacy of police training. And so we're going on that. At the same time, we're also looking for a permanent solution, because right now we do share with a gym, and there are basketball games, and there are volleyball games, and there's weightlifting competitions in that gym. And so LAPRAC has been an awesome partner to us and allow us to be able to do this training, but we want to be able to run training far more regularly and off hours, especially as we prepare for World Cup. And so we're looking at possibly building at Elysian Park, a building, and exploring and going through the process. You know, there is a bureaucratic process to putting up a building, and so exploring that, or also potentially identifying other buildings in the city that we may be able to use instead, so that we do have a permanent home for our virtual reality units. We can expand it more, and we can do that. And so those are kind of where we are at right now when it comes to our buildings and when it comes to other grants that we've been exploring.
Yeah. Thank you, Lieutenant Cullen. And as you can imagine, courses cost money. Every time we go to our vendor V-Armed and we want to create a new course, it costs money. And that grant money was used towards that, but we want to sustain additional grants so we can continue creating these new scenarios like Sergeant LaBelle discussed. And plus, updating our equipment. As you can imagine, in technology, things change immediately, so we've had the same equipment now that you're carrying and your visors and things for almost 3 years, so we want to be able to secure monies to update that equipment and new state-of-the-art equipment with our V-Armed partners in that. So we're hoping, especially with different entities that have reached out to us regarding the efficiency of this and the effectiveness of this training, hopefully we can go into a partnership with that grant to have them assist us with that data collection and putting that proposal together and that program together to really study. It's one thing to put this training through and get these great critiques, but we want to see that effectiveness out there and how that's working. And like Lieutenant Cullen said, it's very labor intensive to do that. And I'm not quite sure we have the staffing to do that, but if we can get in partnership with an entity that's willing to do that with us, that'd be fantastic. So. Okay, thank you. Thank you for letting us speak today. This concludes our presentation, and we'll welcome any questions you may have.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, and again, thank you for having us up there. I know why Vice President Shields is smiling, because in the first scenario, despite how people think I have some experience, after I got hit by a baseball bat virtually, she was able to take care of the suspect. So things do happen. But I'm smiling because in all the virtual reality environments I've been able to train in throughout my career, I think that we have one of the best. I think you're very smart to move into a place where you can do just that. I've worked on several projects now. It's gone a long way. In addition to what you do, I worked on a National Science Foundation project for 6 years. We're doing virtual reality training for active shooters in schools. We're now doing fire response to multi-level metro stations. But all that to say, we moved a facility at my day job from one location in the city to another location, and they do just that. And so you walk into a room about this size or even larger, and you're in the environment, and they can put you in any country and any environment you want. So once you've got that dedicated to you and you're not entertaining basketball games and powerlifting meets, it does make it a lot easier, and I certainly would support that. Lastly, I'll say, you know, one of the things I used to say years ago, and the chief could respect this, for people who think that this job is as simple as it looks on TV and in the movies, I would usually say to them, have you ever gone on a ride-along? I think what I'd like to say to people now, have you ever been in a virtual reality simulator? So I don't know if we're doing that for some of our community academies. I think that's something we should think about. Go ahead, Sarge.
Yeah, no, I could just I can answer to that. Yeah, we actually have been able to entertain certain outside groups, community groups. We had actually the Native American Academy that recently we were involved with come by. We gave them experiences. Though it comes down to what we were saying before, time on calendar, time availability. So it's something we'd love to be able to expand more on.
That's great. Again, it adds a totally different perspective to especially the communities that we serve when they understand just how challenging things can be and how quickly things can evolve. So just thank you for leaning into this, and if there's anything we can do to support you, we certainly will. And I'm going to defer to Vice President Shields.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation and for the report. And I will just say that I think that the virtual reality training here at the department is such a gem, and I think it's the future of training, right? Sitting behind a desk, answering questions and reading a policy and saying you understand it is one thing, being in the situation itself and being able to kind of have hands-on experience, I think is so important, and that's as close to reality as you will get without actually having to do that. So I think it's so important. I do see this as any way we could expand it. I wish we were having more classes and more sessions, and appreciate that we'll be able to have other departments train. Hopefully that doesn't impact the department's ability to get our own officers through this training as much as possible. And I think it's important to note that this isn't just a shoot, don't shoot scenario, and it's not just a static type of environment, right? I really loved the fact that you have one scenario, but it can so many different things can happen because the other people in the scenario can change what they're saying, how they're saying it, what they're doing, all the motions. And so even though we have 142 scenarios, it's not like a walkthrough and it's always going to be the same. And so that is so important in terms of changing things up. And it's not just about use of force. It's about how do you engage with members of the community? How can you de-escalate, a situation, tactics, like why you wouldn't want to put yourself inside a small apartment, right? Like all of those things that I was able to just be able to view through this process, I think was a very great learning exercise for me. And in terms of, I think I have a newfound understanding of the concept of background that I didn't have. I heard about it before this training, but seeing it and then actually debriefing afterwards to say, okay, so here's where the bullets went and how far it travels. All of that, it's until you've actually kind of gone through it, I think, will you have a greater understanding for it. So I really can't say enough real positive and good things about it. And hopefully we, are able to provide this training to other departments, but hopefully most of our officers get through it as well, and really focusing on the how to get ordinary officers who've gone through some of the mental health training, but real life kind of experiences of trying to help them de-escalate situations. I think it's invaluable. So thank you all, and thank you for letting me be out there. And I was glad to help my partner that day.
Thank you. I just want to add LAPD first when it comes to the scheduling. And when we can accommodate, if that happens to be with outside agency, we do that. But Sergeant Bell does a good job of that balance, but it's always LAPD personnel first.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Calanche.
Thank thank you. Just briefly, I haven't had an opportunity to participate, so I will go with Commissioner Sanchez Gordon. But I did participate maybe like 3 or 4 years ago when I first got appointed to like version 1.0, which was like in the complex that we have there at the academy, right? The smaller room. So I did that, and that one of the things, the takeaway from that was how important it is to develop communication skills as a police officer. So I thought that was incredible. So I can imagine just like being in a full-blown scenario where you're having to make decisions and communicate, whether it's communicate like with the public, giving orders, or a criminal, or just a different type of engagement, and the communication skills that you have to develop as a police officer. So that was a big eye-opening experience. So I look forward to seeing the full-blown virtual reality system that we have now. The question I have is, are you actively, or are we actively looking for a space? Who are we pursuing? Are we pursuing opportunities for space, or is it just kind of waiting to see like what comes up?
Yes, so we've done environmental studies to identify if on Elysian Park we would be able to do that, and there is a civic process that we would need to go through and to put up a building, but at the same time, we're looking at empty buildings that the city owns and transfer of ownership, so that there's a possibility of that. And then also looking to try to identify real estate, open warehouse spaces, any vacant warehouse spaces. The problem is the system is large, right? So right now it's the size of a basketball court. So finding something that has that also has a classroom, and then also has parking, right? So that students can come and do that. So it's not just a, hey, cool, I found a great warehouse. I found a really awesome one on Temple with no parking, right? So, going into Rampart and trying to have 30, 40 people park their cars at a warehouse is really, really complicated. Most warehouses don't have that many people there. So there are some things that we're looking at, but yeah, that is an active thing that we're going through. This is something that we want to do as soon as possible.
Okay,
And the best case scenario is that we have identified a plot of land at the Elysian Park Academy. That's where we really would like to go because of all the things that Lieutenant Cullen just said. The parking, you're at the academy, the full
And
training.
is it at the academy, or is it just part of Elysian Park?
It's at the academy. If you face the academy, there's a plot of land just to the right. There's a trailer on that. That is owned by LA City and LAPD. That's our land right there. It's just the process of going through that and the environmental studies and things that have to be done. It's just a
And the
taxing
money
process.
to do it, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, all right, cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia.
Yeah, thank you all. So I had an opportunity to go and visit and be a part of it, and it was great for all the reasons that were mentioned. I think the actual physical experience of it, right? Moving around and again, having other folks moving around you as well, and potentially feeling them, hearing their footsteps. I think it's great. One of the things that all right, so the attorney approves. One of the things we talked about a little bit that day, and I would love to see how that evolves as technology evolves, is in addition to what was mentioned, is how do we get more into like the psychological trainings, right? Like, are there heart rate monitors during those trainings? Is there eye movement monitors? And then how do we translate that for each individual officer, potentially with a psychologist, say, hey, this type of scenario caused this type of reaction that's different from the 10 other scenarios you've done so far, and why? What was in that scenario that triggered you? And how do we, again, from that psychological standpoint, address that trigger or that barrier, so that when officers face those things in real life, they are better prepared. They've deconstructed it with one of the psychiatrists or psychologists to ensure that it isn't a barrier or a point of loss of that tactical training and intelligence when they're there in real life. And so if we could kind of think a little bit about how does that play into in addition to everything that's happening. And maybe it is a conversation with Dr. Dorian to see what are the things that can be captured and are they really useful to capture them and interpret them for, again, it's going to be different for each officer. So again, it has to be with each individual officer in each individual scenario. So potentially it feels a little unrealistic, but how do we get technology to capture and process that and help us?
Yeah, and if I may just address on that just for a quick moment. Great points, and absolutely something that we've actively been considering. Dr. Dorian has been by, and entire his BSS staff has been by. We've had conversations about not only the things you're talking about, but also ideas of like stress inoculation, also the ideas of exposure therapy, officer involved in a critical incident, and maybe providing experiences to be able to work through some of those issues. Our current headsets do capture heart rate and pupil dilation and eye direction. And so, of course, the expertise to be able to then extrapolate useful data out of it. A lot of times what we use it for is basic stress response. Like, interesting thing you'll see is pupil dilation happens immediately, whereas heart rate increases, takes time for it to, because chemicals going through the system. So we try to be science-based. We try to make sure that what we're doing, we put validation behind it, so we do seek experts and input for that.
And we also have to be very mindful, right, that this is someone's personal physical data, right? And so we're mindful on that this is, there's a medical side of things that we don't, in veering into that, so we have to be very careful when it comes to things like this. So it's one of those things that in the moment, the officer is able to see and they're able to debrief it, but we're not saving it. We're not keeping any of those things, so that we're mindful that this is important information, and we're working with BSS on that as well.
But we could, to what you're saying, sir, we could work with Dr. Dorian and BSS and our unit to see if we can take that data and expand on that and take it to the next level. Absolutely.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon.
Again, thank you very much for your report. It was very, very informative, and I really look forward to joining Commissioner Calanche and maybe our new Inspector General, and we can go get this fabulous experience in the simulator. Thank you.
So thanks again. You won't need to come back. However, I'm going to move that we adopt the recommendation for board action. However, I'm going to have the department make some technical changes to the report before it's transmitted to City Council. It's like one or two sentences, just word changes if we do that. So if I could move and have a second on that?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Again, thank you all very much for the work you do. Appreciate it. And we will now recess into closed session. Thank you.
The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss agenda items 5A1 and 5A2 in accordance with Government Code 54957.
The commission has concluded closed session, and we will have a report out by Executive Director Sibley. Mr. Sibley.
Thank you, Mr. President. So item 5A, at the regular meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners on April 8, 2025, during closed session, the board made the following findings. So to item 5A1, which is in custody death, case number 023-24, the following findings were made by a 5-0 vote. For tactics, tactical debrief, 1 police officer 3, 3 police officers 2, and 1 police officer 1. For drawing and exhibition of a firearm, in policy, no further action, 3 police officers 2, and 1 police officer 1. And for non-lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer 3, 3 police officers 2, and 1 police officer 1. Going on to case number 024-24, officer-involved shootings. For tactics, tactical debrief, 1 sergeant 1, 1 police officer 3, and then administrative disapproval for 1 police officer 2. And those findings on tactics were made by a 5-0 vote. For drawing and exhibition of a firearm, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer 2. That finding was made by a vote of 3-2, with the two being Sanchez Gordon and Calanche. And for lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer 2, again by a vote of 3-2, with the two being Commissioners Sanchez Gordon and Calanche. And that concludes the reports out, Mr. President.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to adjourn today's meeting. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.